Chief, but he wouldn't need a jack. He just, pick up the left fender and
He'd just pick it up.
Pick it up. Put a new tire on there, would you? That's right. He's a big, stout boy, that's for sure.
My name is Jackson, and I'm a big boy.
Well, let me move into what we're talking about today and get started on this big extravaganza that we call the Matt Murphy Show. I want to start by talking about what's going on with Iran. If you've been following the news today, you know that apparently Trump has been in the Situation Room. And that's an interesting thing. I mean, you could do this in the Oval Office. You could do it in any of the meeting rooms, but they've gone to the Situation Room, I assume, so they can talk about highly classified matters, bring in if they need to put somebody on camera, some commander in the field or somebody overseas or some ally to get on the camera feed and do it in a classified way, a secure way. Seems like that's what's happening today behind the scenes. I don't know. I can't really get a read on where we are with regard to a deal, but let me just tell you what we do know. This is what Trump was saying a day ago.
It looks like they want to just make a deal. They have. I don't think they have a choice. They're just going back to the internet because they're getting clobbered. Their economy is in free fall. They have 250% inflation. Their money has no value. Their whole economic system is broken down. They thought they were going to outweight me. We'll outweight him. He's got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms.
Well, hold on a minute. He does care about the midterms, but he doesn't want to pretend that he really cares about the midterms when he's in the middle of negotiations with Iran. It has to be on his mind, but he says, I'm not really all that focused. I want a good deal. Again, I think, he is the guy who wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. I'm not too worried about the deal. I think he'll come up with a good one. That's my hope. But he does care about the midterms. We continue.
Look what happened last night. That was the prelude to the midterms. People understand it. They know that, very simple, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I'm doing that for the world. I'm not doing it just for us. And we've had great support from other nations, by the way. We don't need it at all, but we've had great support from other nations. The problem is you always get the support when you don't need it. When you need it, you don't get the support. With Operation Epic Fury, our warriors are ensuring that the world's #1 state sponsor of terror never obtains a nuclear weapon, and they won't.
Well, here's where we are on the thing. Let me just read to you from Axios, which has a pretty nice sort of, short version of what's on tap here. What President Trump said on Friday, he's convening his national security team in the White House Situation Room to make final decisions about the agreement reached between the U.S. and Iranian negotiators. The text of the Memorandum of Understanding. In other words, this is what they call in legal terms an MOU. This is it's less than this is like a deal. This is our understanding of what the deal will be. A 60-day ceasefire extension, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, largely agreed to as of Tuesday, but they needed more time to make a decision. Trump on Truth Social this morning said the following. Iran must agree that they will never have a nuclear weapon or a bomb. He claims that the Strait of Hormuz must be immediately opened without tolls for unrestricted shipping traffic in both directions. He noted Iran will complete the immediate removal and or detonation of any mines that are left in the strait. And ships caught in the strait due to the unprecedented naval blockade that we put in place will now be lifted. And those ships that are stuck in the Strait of Hormuz may start the process of heading home. Trump claims that Iran's enriched uranium, which is buried deep underground, will be unearthed by the United States. He goes on to say, by the way, there are only two countries in the world that have the ability to do this. One is the United States, and the other is China. U.S. officials say they have verbal commitments from Iranians on the nuclear material, but what matters is what is agreed to when the sides get in the room for the formal negotiations. Trump says no money will be exchanged until further notice, referring to Iran's frozen funds held in accounts around the world. Now, what are the Iranians saying? Here's what you got to know about the Iranians. First of all, they're shrewd negotiators. They're not stupid when it comes to this stuff. They're good at it. They also like to kick the can down the road. That's one of their big strategies. Kick that can down the road. So the 60-day extension of a ceasefire does allow them to do that. But here's what they're saying. The Fars news agency, which basically speaks for the government of Iran, has denied some of Trump's comments, quoting informed sources as saying, the memorandum of understanding is in the final stages of approval in Iran, and no final decision has yet been made. Trump is trying to, quote, project a fabricated victory and is distorting the text of the MOU. They also claim Iran would receive immediate payment of $12 billion in frozen assets. We've said that's not going to happen until everything else falls into line. Fars also said that the MOU includes a ceasefire in Lebanon in accordance with Hezbollah's positions. U.S. officials said the deal would include a ceasefire in Lebanon. So there is what is being discussed. I think it's real interesting. I still think, and I promise you, if you stick with me, coming up in the next hour, I'll get into a deeper way about what I think this is all going to have, what kind of impact this is all going to have on the midterm elections, because many people are concerned about that. Maybe not as bad as you think it is. And I'll get into that and talk about, how the economy can come back. But let's just talk about where we are today as a result of this. Let's talk some numbers. The talk of a deal with Iran has the markets giddy. Dow is now at 51,000, or right about. West Texas Intermediate crude, which was well up over $100 a barrel not long ago, has dropped to $87 a barrel. It probably needs for real gas prices to return to get down to about 67. But you know what? Just on the news that we are very close to a deal, already the price of oil is coming down. Brent crude, $92 a barrel. As I say, that will take some time to sort of filter down to where we are with all of the gas prices and everything. But in Tennessee today, a gallon of gas, average, $4.02 a gallon. The national average is $4.39. And for some reason, which just defies explanation in my mind, the folks in Williamson County, on average, are paying about the same amount as the national average. So while in Tennessee the average is $4.02 a gallon, in Williamson County, the gallon of gas costs you $4.31 on average. If I were in Williamson, I think I'd be asking questions about why is our gasoline more expensive than anywhere else? I guess because that's what people will pay for it. National average $4.39. So we're seeing some real reduction in oil prices. Gas prices coming down more slowly, but they will come down. But we got to wait and see, make sure that this is a deal that Trump can accept. It's 3:16 in the afternoon. It's 4:16 on the East Coast. Haven't yet heard, how he feels about his day-long meeting, but those meetings are underway. And then the question is, what happens after Iran? Let me just throw this out. Cuba is said to be next. I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon, but the westernjournal.com has a very interesting article about what we would do in Cuba. It says, the military is prepared to strike Cuba at a moment's notice when POTUS, the president, says, go, we're ready. That's the quote. Roughly 65 years after the disastrous Bay of Pig invasion failed to topple the entrenched Castro regime, the potential of American boots on the ground in Cuba is being discussed in Washington as the weakened island's communist regime staggers under the weight of crushing American economic sanctions. Military plans according to this article, have been drafted as a possible summer collapse is envisioned by the Trump administration, according to Axios. To date, economic sanctions rather than bombs have been the weapons of choice. We don't want to kill off the regime just yet. There's a method to this. It's in stages, said one person who was speaking to reporters. Squeezing the Cuban regime is a holding pattern that offers results as President Donald Trump seeks to bring the war in Iran to a close. Iran's not finished, and the president's not in a rush, a senior administration official said. Trump wants to exhaust all the levers that he can, but at this point, there aren't as many levers as before. U.S. Southern Command has held, and this is interesting, tabletop exercises to map out a plan if troops become part of the equation. What you got to know about, I always talk about how government, by and large, does not act, it reacts. I've said that for years, and I believe it to be true. Government reacts. It doesn't necessarily act proactively in many occasions. But the one exception to that is the military, that has a plan to, I'm positive that at the Pentagon, you could go into some back room somewhere and knock the dust off a plan to invade Canada. I mean, it could happen. But they have a plan for everything. So what happens in a situation like this is they dust off the plans, they update the information, and they look at it. And that apparently has happened. They've had tabletop war games. Everything is on the table, but no invasion is planned or imminent, an official said. When POTUS says go, we're ready for anything. Summer could prove the catalyst, the official said. This is pretty interesting. Or maybe wait for a little while and make the people of Cuba more receptive to American intervention. It's going to be hot. People won't have electricity. Food spoils without refrigeration. People get angry, as we saw here in Nashville after the ice storm. They can take to the streets, and then that happens. I can't see the president doing nothing if there is repression against the people of Cuba. Trump advisors said any troops sent to Cuba would not remain there very long. The president does not want boots on the ground for more than 48 hours. It's a quagmire in the making. It could get messy. Sounds like he's talking about an action like we saw in Venezuela. In and out very, very quickly. Cuba is in a lot of trouble because, unfortunately for them, it's run by a bunch of incompetent communists. Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, said on Wednesday, being a communist is bad. Being an incompetent communist is like the worst. Having a failed state 90 miles from our shores is a threat to the national security of the United States, he added, according to Politico. So there's where we are. President meeting on Iran, Cuba, on the horizon. 21 past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Hello, friends. My name is Matt Murphy, and Dickens Turf and Landscape Supply is my one-stop shop for all things landscaping needs in our community, and I want them to be yours as well. Dickens Turf and Landscape Supply is your local source. They are offering incredible deals right now on so many different mowers, push-behinds. Obviously, they've got the incredible riding mowers, that zero-turn mowers that you absolutely love, and they want to service you. They want to serve you in terms of buying, and they want to serve you in terms of their knowledge. Call your closest Dickens Turf and Landscape Supply location for more details. There are 7 of them: Nashville, Bellevue, Murfreesboro, Brentwood, Mower, Hendersonville, Mount Juliet, and Franklin. DickensSupply.com. DickensSupply.com. Friends, go where the pros go. I strongly encourage you to go online to Dickens Supply and stop by to one of their shops today, because if you've got questions, they've got answers at Dickens Turf and Landscape Supply.
Will President Trump agree to a peace deal with Iran? Will Iran agree? And oil prices on track for their biggest monthly drop in 6 years with all this talk of a deal. And a California woman dubbed the party mom heading to prison. We'll tell you about all these and more at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, here's a question for you, Ken Weaver.
Yes,
Did
sir.
you see the video of that explosion down at Cape Canaveral?
Yes, I did.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that was something.
I mean, it's a bombshell story is what it is. I mean,
Yes.
that doesn't even do it justice. They are saying that explosion is like, it's not the most, it's not the biggest explosion, non-nuclear explosion ever, but it's right up there.
Oh, yes. It was felt
I mean,
for miles away.
Yeah, and when you see, the fireball and this thing, I mean, it just destroyed. Well, this is bad news on many levels because this is Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin, his New Glenn rocket, which is supposed to be very integral to getting us back to the moon. They blew up one of their rockets, which you can rebuild a rocket. But the launching pad down there at Cape Canaveral, they only have one, and it cost about $1 billion to build. So you don't rebuild a launch pad as quickly as you can rebuild a rocket. It's going to take a little while, and it's going to take a lot of money. And the question is, what does this mean for our return to the moon? Because the New Glenn rocket was supposed to do some of the heavy lifting, and NASA's contracted with New Glenn. They contract with SpaceX on a lot of stuff. That's Elon Musk, but it's Blue Origin that was going to do the heavy lifting to the moon. Now comes word that they're going to have to rebuild quite a bit here. Let's go through this. Jeff Bezos, the company's founder and owner, said in a social media post that personnel were accounted for and safe, and that Blue Origin would rebuild after the incident. He said they had a very rough day. I think that's an understatement. A spokesman for Space Force, which oversees the property including Blue Origin site, said no injuries, no fatalities, and emergency personnel were there on the scene. Catastrophic failure is a major setback for Bezos' Blue Origin. The company, long trailing Elon Musk's SpaceX in terms of launches and in-space operations, has set up ambitious agenda for the year. It had been planning to use New Glenn to deploy commercial satellites for Amazon.com and other customers, and to blast its own cargo lander to the surface of the moon. Those missions are now certain to be delayed. Engineers and technicians from Blue Origin will need time to assess the damage from Thursday's explosion and work on a plan to rebuild the damaged site, in addition to identifying the cause of the failure. You got to figure out what went wrong. You got to fix the rockets. You got to fix the launch pad. The launch pad hit in the explosion is the only site from which the company can launch New Glenn, a powerful rocket that the company launched for the first time last year. Blue Origin's accident also likely to affect NASA's Artemis exploration program and the space agency's broader goals of rapidly stepping up scientific and cargo flights to the moon. In 2027, NASA wants to test Artemis hardware, including the lander vehicle that Blue Origin is developing and would launch with New Glenn. I think the way you solve this problem is you hand it over to Elon.
Yeah.
Elon has already been on record as saying, if we're prepared to step up if we need to step up.
Yeah.
So
it's good. It's good to have a couple of billionaires, doing this, because we need this type of research and trying, if you will, but Elon seems to have it down.
Well, yeah,
and
Jeff's
record
got
isn't
that big
that
rocket. His big rocket is still blowing up sometimes.
Yes.
Not working the way it should, but he's getting there. And I don't know. It just seems that this really put it back in Elon's court, because Jeff Bezos is going to be a while getting this big rocket up and running and rebuilding that whole launch site down there at Cape Canaveral. I don't know. It seems like it's going to be a little while before Elon's ready to go again. So there's that. So, as they say, it's rocket science. It's not easy.
Well, as Elon put it in his tweet, rockets are hard.
Yeah, they are. It's apparently not. That's why they call it rocket. It's not. You say it's not rocket science. Rocket science is hard.
Yes,
that's right. All right. It's 3:30. Time for Ken in the News on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes, and we're watching a potentially pivotal moment as President Trump says he's meeting in the Situation Room to make a final decision on Iran, claiming the U.S. is lifting its naval blockade, that ships in the Strait of Hormuz can begin heading home. He's also demanding Iran agree to never build a nuclear weapon and allow unrestricted shipping with no tolls. What is Iran saying, Christiane Cordero?
Iran, according to state media, is rejecting the idea that they are going to let traffic move freely through the Strait of Hormuz without the tolls that they had previously mentioned that they would impose. Those are the things that they were working on Oman with, by the way. And they're also, making no mention of the nuclear program in that there's no agreement, but rather they're calling it a commitment for a commitment. So in other words, saying we're not going to talk about this issue right now.
Oil prices, by the way, on track for their biggest monthly drop in 6 years, offering some relief at the pump. At least we hope. There is some of that going on here in Middle Tennessee. Gas Buddy putting the average per gallon in Middle Tennessee today at $4.07. That is down more than 16 cents since last week. And a California mom, dubbed the Party Mom, is heading to prison, given 35 years for hosting alcohol-fueled sex parties for teenagers in the Silicon Valley.
52-year-old Shannon O'Connor hosted parties for her son and his friends beginning in 2020. Prosecutors say she bought teenage attendees alcohol and condoms and encouraged sex at the parties. Most of the attendees were 14 and 15 years old. Among dozens of charges was child endangerment. Patty is a parent and says you'd never think of a mom running sex parties like these.
You don't know what a pedophile looks like. It could be a mom.
O'Connor claims the teens just wanted to socialize and needed any outlet possible during the pandemic. Alex Stone, ABC News.
That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, got a crash 40 eastbound near Church Street, then 440 eastbound at 24, 65 southbound where 65 and 24 come together. Also in Laverne, Old Hickory Boulevard right there at I-24. Northbound 65 to the South Loop downtown is like a parking lot. That's a lot of brake tapping there. Heck, it starts before you get to 440. I'm Ken Weaver.
It is 34 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy. He'll be back on Monday. Ken Weaver's in the newsroom, and RJ is pushing the blinky buttons in such an effective way today. Glad to have you with us on this Friday, May 29th. Big news is that the president is meeting with his officials in the Situation Room, trying to decide whether or not we are ready to close up the deal with Iran. We'll keep you, if anything happens, we'll go right to that story because there's so much that depends on ending that situation that impacts the midterm elections, our economy, etc. So we'll get into that if there's anything to report. In the meantime, I'd like to travel down, to the swamp because that's what we like to do.
That's a dangerous place.
It is. It's full of all kinds of ugly, nasty creatures. All right, let's talk about this. Apparently, somebody tried to swat Amy Coney Barrett of the Supreme Court. Justice Barrett, apparently police were summoned to her house, claiming that there had been shots fired, etc. And the police went to the house and found out it was an attempt at what they call swatting. And if you don't know what swatting is, they will try to call in a fake report and the police show up at the house and the SWAT team shows up at the house, and it could be a dangerous situation because you don't know what's really going on. And it's usually just somebody trying to mess with an official. Here is how that phone call went down. And here's the actual police traffic on it. Dispatcher talking to people in the field.
Attention all units responding to the suspicious noise. There is an LOI for this address that has 24-hour security coverage for a high-priority resident of the county.
High-priority resident of the county.
Units responding to suspicious noise. Be advised, we have not been able to get an answer on callback to the complainant's phone number. And then if it's going to be a swatting situation or not.
So here is the officer who arrives on the scene.
2111.
Make contact with security that's on scene. They should be outside and explore. He said he hasn't heard anything. We're just going to meet up with him first just to go over it.
Yeah, so there you go. Turned out to be nothing, but this is what if you're a Supreme Court justice, this is what you got to deal with. People sending the SWAT team to your house when you don't need the SWAT team. So that's the left. That's the left for you. Really, we should not do this. I mean, honestly, Supreme Court justices ought not to be treated this way, regardless of whether they're on the left or the right. Pam Bondi, the former U.S. Attorney General, went to Capitol Hill today for a closed-door interview with members of the House Oversight Committee, discussing about a lot of different things, but mostly about Jeffrey Epstein. Former Attorney General Pam Bondi on Friday defended the Department of Justice's handling of the release of files about notorious sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in her opening statement to a House panel. Bondi said that to the best of my knowledge, the DOJ publicly released all documents and other evidence as required by the Epstein Files Transparency Act, according to a transcript of her statement obtained by MS Now. Her statement, if MS Now got it, then a Democrat leaked it. Pam Bondi was at the heart of the White House cover-up, and Oversight Chairman James Comer is working to hide her testimony, said Sarah Guerrero, a spokesperson for Democrats on the panel. I don't get that. I mean, look, this is everything I read. Anytime you put something out there that's the least bit interesting on social media about what's going on in Washington, invariably, without a moment's hesitation, you will see people say, it's just trying to distract us from the Epstein files. It's distracting from the Epstein files. Folks, there are 3 million Epstein files. How many do you want? I don't think we'll ever get the answers we want, because if you don't find a document that says what you think it should say, then you're of the opinion that we haven't seen the Epstein files. I'm quite frankly done with the Epstein files. I'm so tired of the topic. I think we have released everything that is out there. I do not believe that he died of a suicide. I don't. But are there documents that are going to put that to rest? I don't think so. The bottom line is, I just at some point you wonder, it's like with the JFK files. No matter how many they release, there are going to be a great number of people who say, well, we haven't seen all of them. They're hiding some of it. Well, it could be. I guess that's possible. But at what point do you move on? I mean, does Epstein really impact anybody anymore? It's pretty clear that if there were documents that were implicating Donald Trump, and Jeffrey Epstein. Don't you think they would have put them out during the election? The Democrats? Of course they would have. Biden administration was in charge of the investigation at the time. If they had something, you know they were going to put it out there, and they didn't. So I guess the thing I would say is, what do you want out of the Epstein thing? I think I'm done with it. I don't care that much about it. I do think it's tragic what happened. Don't get me wrong. I'm not denying that it was a scandal. But at what point do you say, well, we haven't gotten all of the documents? Well, I don't know. We haven't been satisfied with the JFK documents. We haven't been satisfied with the 9/11 documents. We haven't been satisfied with the Epstein documents. We still don't think we're getting all of the UFO documents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Well, at what point do you give up and move on? Why ex-CIA officer David Rush's $40 million gold bar case could point to a large-scale cover-up. This is a fascinating story. There was a very high-ranking CIA officer named David Rush, and apparently he was arrested on the 16th, I want to say, so that was several days ago. But when they went to his house and searched, they found, and I'm not making this up, $20 million in cash and $40 million in gold bars. How did this happen? Former CIA Staff Operations Officer Tracy Walder was baffled over the stunning allegations against Rush and believes they could point to a much larger, troubling issue within the agency. This would have been a large-scale cover-up. There would have had to have been a lot of other co-conspirators, Walder told the Post. They're going to go back at least 10 years in terms of people people who are your friends. He would have to ask all these people to lie for him, or did he lie to them? Here it is. The FBI raided Rush's Virginia home May 18th, not the 16th, 18th, as part of an investigation into whether he lied about his military's academic background, and found 303 1-kilogram gold bars worth over $40 million. $2 million in U.S. currency and 35 luxury watches. Many of them were Rolexes, and you know how expensive they are. According to an affidavit, Rush obtained the gold bars by making a series of requests between last November and March of this year, claiming he needed the bullion for work-related expenses. Walder surmised Rush may have forged document, or maybe it's a lazy or incompetent background investigator who missed the red flags across his 3 separate applications to the agencies before he was finally hired in 2009. Apparently lied about his resume when he went to the CIA, and nobody caught it. There's something going on there. What it is ain't exactly clear, but they're on it. They're on it. Yesterday, I got very excited because I saw that the President of the United States, or the White House, rather, had opened up their aliens.gov website. Now, they set up an aliens.gov website some time ago, and then when they started dropping the UFO documents, they did that through the Department of War, not through this aliens.gov website. Then yesterday, there was all this teasing that was going on. Something's about to happen. Something's about to be revealed at aliens.gov. And then they revealed it late in the day. Well, they were talking about aliens, all right, just not from outer space. We're talking about aliens, illegal aliens who came into this country. And it's a complete compendium of how many people have been arrested by the Trump administration and the things that they've been arrested for. Fascinating, truly interesting. But it's not about UFOs at all. However, we are expected to get more UFO documents. More on that a little bit later in the program. White House opens aliens.gov ICE portal. The site opens with a scrolling text styled after the Star Wars franchise. They walked among us. For 60 years, the U.S. government has kept a closely guarded secret. Aliens have been walking among us, living in our neighborhoods, and interacting with us in our daily lives. But not the kind of aliens that you might expect. These are illegal aliens. He makes a very good point. They have been here, and they have been walking among us. 3.1 million encounters as of Thursday evening by the Trump administration. The site does not specify a time frame, but the figures align with data from the House Homeland Security Committee, which places nationwide Customs and Border Protection encounters at roughly 3.1 million during President Donald Trump's first term, fiscal year 2017 through 2020. Below the counter, an interactive heat map built on ICE Arrest Data Center data lets users search city by city or state by state to find the totals. And you can see that. You can go to aliens.gov. It will redirect you to the White House website, and you can see who they have arrested inside of Tennessee. Now, as long as we're just talking briefly about aliens, Spielberg Steven Spielberg has a movie coming out in just a few days. I think it's set for the 16th of June, I want to say. I believe that's right. And it's about Disclosure Day. And it's getting a lot of advanced publicity as being a very good Spielberg movie. And many people are wondering, is this when we're going to get all of the real alien documents that they've been leaking them out, and they've been pretty interesting. They haven't been, the holy crap stuff has not yet come out. Are they waiting for this movie? And Spielberg has been very mysterious about the third act of the play, of the movie. He said he will not allow any of that to be released in advance. Only a handful of people have gotten to see the movie as of now, but it's getting really good reviews as a classic Spielberg movie. But Spielberg says, hey, you know what? This is not so much fiction as truth. I mean, it's a fictitious movie. It's science fiction, but based on what he says is a lot of truth in this movie. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out in the days ahead. Let's see. Steven Spielberg, have you ever seen the final trailer for a major studio that was narrated by its director? That's the case for the new trailer for Disclosure Day, which has enjoyed one of the weirdest and most freakishly fortuitous marketing campaigns in Hollywood history, as the real-life disclosure movement involving government officials claiming a widespread UFO cover-up coincides with Universal's promotional push for a movie about the same thing. With a title that's this close to last fall's hit UFO documentary, Age of Disclosure, Universal has employed a muddy blend of traditional marketing clips highlighting the director's personal belief that aliens have likely visited our planet, and footage in the latest trailer that looks almost identical to videos the Pentagon declassified just last week. Some people believe, in fact, there may be scenes in this movie that have not been seen by the public before now. Yeah, look, we are about to be wowed, it would seem to me, by some of if what we are hearing from people like Tim Burchett, who I believe is a straight shooter, an honest guy. I believe he shoots straight from the lip, and he doesn't mess around. He's not one who's prone to tell you things that are not true. I think he tells us that there's something out there, and if you believe him and Congressman Burleson and Congresswoman Luna, we're about to get some really big stuff out there. And I'm wondering if the government has decided to wait until this movie comes out and somehow play off that before they drop the really eye-popping stuff. It almost seems like they're trying to bring out the stuff slowly, a little bit of this in dribs and drabs, so that we become almost, second, it becomes, another UFO video. How remarkable is that? Another UFO video. Oh my. Oh, John. It's hard to believe that's going to be our response, but it's almost is what they're doing. They're trying to numb us. Okay, here's a bunch. Here's 10 more. Yeah, here's 10 more. Here's 20. And then when the holy crap stuff comes out, we're perhaps a little better prepared for it. Is that all tied to the release of this movie? Who knows? But one way or the other, it's got to be interesting to see what else comes down the pathway. And by the way, there'll probably be people at the end of the day who say, no matter how many UFO documents have come out, that we haven't seen them all. Do you see? You see where I'm going? It's 50 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, folks. Matt Murphy for Better Water. Better Water. Everybody wants better water, right? But have you called Better Water LLC? Think of it as a big Brita filter for your home or your office. Scalable from under the sink. More on that in a moment. That's what I did in my home to whole house applications. They'll come out to your home and give you a free inspection and figure out what's going on in your home or your place of business. Is there sulfur in your water? Iron, chlorine, bacteria, E. coli? Do you have hard water, as they say? They offer a full range of water treatment options and equipment, from reverse osmosis units to water softeners, specialized filters, UV lights, you name it. They do it based out of Smyrna, right here in Middle Tennessee. So we received an RO system in our home under the sink that eliminates and filters the water and gives us that beautiful branch that we like to drink from. Now, we were told that our water is A-OK, but from a taste perspective, we wanted to make sure that we had it pristine, and we've got it now. Thanks to Better Water, Better Water LLC. They're going to talk to you, and they're going to figure out what you need for your home, and they're going to help you treat that water. They treat the water at the hospitals, they treat the water at the coffee shop, and they want to do your home or your place of business as well. Give them a call. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you, 615-355-6063, 355-6063, or online at betterwater.com, betterwater.com. For many of you, and I know because I talk to you, and I'm one of you, you do everything right. You feel like you're exercising enough. You feel like you're eating right, but you get to a certain age where you just can't get it off in certain areas. You just can't get it done. Allow the modern technology, the red light therapy that is Contours, to give you that boost, that assist. You do those things that you're doing in your daily life. Let Contours do their thing with their ultra slim body contouring, and together you're going to achieve that level of happiness, and that happiness, it cannot be replicated. Once you get to that body, that look that you're looking for, once you lose those inches that you wanted to lose in your love handles, in your chest area, wherever it might be, I'm telling you, folks, look in the mirror and you'll love what you see when you get to Contours LLC. They also do facials that are revitalizing. The red light therapy will tighten your skin and restore your natural glow for both men and women. Red light therapy works, and I'm a testimony to it because I'm going through a session right now, just left earlier today, as a matter of fact. So for $99, you can get that Belly Buster special. Call today at Contours LLC, 615-236-9960, 615-236-9960, ContoursLLC.com. What do you have to lose but inches?
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got showers moving through the area. That's pretty much what it's going to be like through at least tomorrow night. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. A federal judge ordering that President Trump's name be removed from the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., setting a 2-week deadline for Trump's name to come off the building. The judge ruling that the Authority to rename the center lies with Congress, not the center's board. ABC News Washington Bureau Managing Editor Catherine Falders reports.
Not only did the judge rule against the center's renaming, he also said the board has to vote again before the closure can happen because he determined the trustees weren't given enough information in advance of their vote to fulfill their obligation, if you will. So it really is a scathing ruling for the Trump administration. And of course, the judge also said that the closure of the Kennedy Center can't move forward as planned.
Another judge earlier today blocked funds from that IRS settlement from going to the anti-weaponization fund. It's unclear whether a new draft of a potential deal between the U.S. and Iran will get a final approval. President Trump says he's spending today in the Situation Room of the White House, making a decision on its approval. Trump says the proposal should demand a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and to stop Iran's nuclear program, but Iranian state media saying that Iranian leadership wants to oversee the Strait of Hormuz indefinitely. Iranian officials also did not commit to any points about its nuclear program. We get more from ABC's Christiane Cordero.
That really does put back into question how serious this potential deal is. And right now, based on the rhetoric coming from Tehran, it doesn't seem like it's even close to being over the finish line.
Well, consumers may finally be getting a break as oil prices are dropping sharply this month. The average price of gas has eased slightly nationwide, but it's still far above pre-war levels. Here in Middle Tennessee, Gas Buddy putting the average per gallon at $4.07. That's down more than 16 cents from last week. And all signs are pointing to a natural gas leak as the source of that explosion and fire that killed at least 3 people in Dallas yesterday. ABC's Jim Ryan says local investigators just beginning their probe are getting help from the NTSB.
3 people, including a child, are known to have died when the 23-unit apartment building blew up, but other victims could still be buried in the rubble.
We will continue searching the building until every last inch of that property has been searched.
An emotional Jason Evans of the Dallas Fire Department says a tragedy like this, especially one involving children, is tough on first responders.
And that is, excuse me, and that, we're parents.
Jim Ryan, ABC News in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Here in Nashville, rising costs forcing a 40-year-old business to shut down. McNeil's Fresh Produce in Bellevue going to close this week after 40 years of operation. Democrat State Rep Vincent Dixie launching a campaign for Congress in the newly drawn 7th District. In his announcement, Dixie criticizing the state's redistricting process, arguing the new maps weaken black voting power and divide communities. And a marquee celebration intended to celebrate the country's birthday in Washington, D.C., facing controversy as artists continue to remove themselves from the lineup.
The Commodores, and now Martina McBride,
Let freedom ring.
are among at least 4 musical acts pulling out of a concert series being held at the National Mall beginning next month. The concerts are being run by Freedom 250, a group launched by President Trump to organize the nation's birthday festivities. The group claims to be nonpartisan, but some artists say they were not aware Freedom 250 was founded by the president. Martina McBride saying, "I was presented with an opportunity to perform at a nonpartisan event, but that turned out to be misleading."
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Yeah, still got some rain falling, so we got wet roads and interstates, and we've got crashes. 40 eastbound near Church Street, 440 eastbound near 24, 65 northbound at Armory Drive, 40 eastbound on the South Loop here, that's going to be 4th Avenue, and then Murfreesboro Pike at Bell Road, 24 eastbound at Hickory Hollow and Antioch. At the Eastern Split, 40 eastbound there at exit 213A. Lebanon, a crash, 40 eastbound near I-840. Pleasant View, Cheatham County, 24 eastbound near exit 24. Hermitage, 40 eastbound before Stewart's Ferry Pike. 65 southbound where 65 and 24 come together. And then in Williamson County, 840 eastbound approaching exit 42, right there at Arrington. And in Smyrna, 24 eastbound near Sam Ridley Parkway. I'm Ken Weaver.
It is 7 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, in for Matt Murphy, who will return on Monday. Ken Weaver's in the newsroom. RJ pushing the blinky buttons. Matt Murphy is off, apparently running around, turning left very fast in a truck. That's what I hear. So stay off the wall, Matt. Whatever you do, stay off the wall. You go fast, you turn left, you stay off the wall, you do well. That's all you need to know about racing. But anyway, he'll be back on Monday, and I am here all the way till 7 o'clock tonight. I want to talk about the midterm elections. You know, in 1986, when I went to Capitol Hill, it wasn't very long before I started to cover a guy by the name of Newt Gingrich as Speaker of the House. And back in those days, Newt, I found him to be really, really sharp when it comes to politics in general, how things are going to play out. He hasn't lost that one bit. I find myself in complete agreement with Newt Gingrich about what's going to happen with the midterm elections. And a lot of it has to do with the price of gasoline. Here is Newt Gingrich talking about, the midterm elections.
It looks like they want to just make a deal. They want to, they have, I don't think they have.
My apologies, Rob Byte. Here we go.
A stunning admission.
If you tell me the price of gasoline on Labor Day, I'm pretty confident I can tell you about the election. If the president can get gasoline down somewhere in the $3 range, and people begin to feel like it's going to continue to come down, the Republicans will win the largest off-year election in modern times.
Wow. Let's just go through that again, because that's pretty impressive. He says if it's around $3 a gallon, when we get to Labor Day, it's going to be okay.
If you tell me the price of gasoline on Labor Day, I'm pretty confident I can tell you about the election.
It's all about the economy, stupid. And what impacts the economy? If you've ever listened to any of my shows, you know that how I feel strongly about this. Nothing impacts the economy more strongly than the price of fuel, whether it's gas, diesel, natural gas, whatever it is, because it takes fuel to get goods to market, services to market, and it's one thing that can come across the entire economy and cause things to go into the toilet. But he says if we get to $3 by Labor Day, we'll be okay.
From Jill Biden about her.
Here we go.
If the president can get gasoline down somewhere in the $3 range, and people begin to feel like it's going to continue to come down, the Republicans will win the largest off-year election in modern times.
Wonder why that is.
Really? Yes, that's my personal judgment. Partially because with the one big beautiful bill last year, the weight of economic growth is going to be so enormous. We'll probably be at 5 or 6% growth by this fall.
Wow.
Which means that jobs will be showing up. People will have wages rising faster than inflation. And we will really be back rolling as the arsenal of democracy. The other thing is that the Democrats really have become a party that is I think, weak and woke and far too liberal. And I think as a result, they are almost like George McGovern in 72. They are open to the potential for a collapse on a scale they can't quite imagine. And only, frankly, the liberal news media misleading them, like the recent Washington Post poll, which had, I think, 27% Trump voters in the poll when he got 50% in the election. Now, that's actually a disadvantage in the long run for the left, because it means they're always operating off of bad information, and they don't realize how much they've got to change and how much trouble they're in.
Yeah, so if the polling data that they're looking at gives them confidence that they're on the right path when they're really not on the right path, that works to the conservatives, Republicans' value, to their advantage. Listen, everything he has said. Number one, it is about the cost of fuel. Number two, we have the big, beautiful bill, which is poised to make things better in this in the near term if we can just get through this gasoline thing. And I do say this, and I've said this many, many times, I think we are poised to have explosive growth in the second half of this year once we get gasoline prices down. There are a lot of other things going on behind the scenes that are very positive. But today alone, we've already started to see oil prices come down as we apparently are very close to having some kind of deal with Iran. I don't think the deal is there yet, but I think we're getting pretty close. President's been in the Situation Room today trying to figure out whether or not he can accept the deal. But let me just tell you, oil prices are already coming down. West Texas Intermediate now selling for $87 a barrel. It was like 102, 103, not just the other day. Last time I was on, I think it was $103. So it's coming down dramatically. And imagine if we get a deal and that continues and we see prices drop, another $1 a gallon. And then all of a sudden, the other things that have been sort of percolating out there with the big, beautiful bill, and that's things like major tax refunds. I didn't think I was going to get a tax refund. And now I'm finding out from the IRS that apparently I am. So I think a lot of people are finding out things like that. And I think they're going to find out that indeed, they're going to have money to spend at a time when prices are coming down. I think it's a win-win-win. And I think we do very well in the midterms if indeed everything follows that mindset. Here's from NBCNews.com, oil is set for its biggest one-month drop in 6 years, bringing consumers some relief. The average price of gas fell 17 cents since its peak earlier this month. It is still 47% higher than it was at the start of the Iran war. As May's final day of oil trading is underway, the price of crude is set for its biggest one-month decline in 6 years, delivering some relief to consumers. As measured by the global Brent oil benchmark, prices are on track for a more than 20% decline in May, the biggest monthly drop since 2020. U.S. crude oil has also recorded a steep 19% drop in May, which would be its largest monthly decline since late 2021, right after COVID. These moves are already starting to show up in the form of lower gas prices, according to NBC News. As of Friday, the average price of unleaded gas fallen 17 cents per gallon from this year's peak of $4.56. That's the nationwide average. We're doing better here. The sharp drop in global oil prices was prompted mainly by messaging from Washington, where President Donald Trump and top administration officials have relentlessly suggested that Iran and U.S. are in the final stages of talks to end the fighting and return energy shipping to a pre-war status quo. There you go. Pretty good stuff. American consumers, writes Breitbart.com, keep spending, sending retail shares soaring. That's amazing. Americans kept spending in April. See, this is good economic news, even as gasoline prices continue to surge, a sign that higher energy costs have not forced a broad retreat in household outlays. Consumer spending rose 0.5% from March. The Commerce Department said on Thursday. Gasoline and other energy goods were a major driver. Spending excluding food and energy rose 0.4% in April. Spending excluding food, energy, and housing climbed 0.3%. So all of this is good news. That resilience was visible in the stock market on Thursday. Listen to this. Shares of Kohl's, Best Buy, and Dollar Tree surged after the retailers gave investors reason to believe shoppers are still spending when they find the right mix of price and value. Dollar Tree and Best Buy were up about 18% in midday trading, while Kohl's climbed around 17%. The April report suggests, this is the key sentence here, that gasoline prices are not crowding out the rest of the consumer economy. So the good news here is that we are poised, I think, in a big way to come up roaring out of this thing. I mean, maybe today we get the big news that indeed we have a 60 days extension and things are winding down in Iran and the oil prices will continue to come down. We already have retail sales are up. People have got money in their pocket from something, from somewhere. I would suggest that's probably income tax returns that are in their pockets and they're spending because they are still spending money. New York Times poll says that when it comes to the midterms, take it with a grain of salt. It's a New York Times poll, but I think they're probably right about this. A sizable 43% of voters say they are dissatisfied with both major political parties. The poll underscores growing frustration among voters who feel neither Republicans nor Democrats are adequately addressing the nation's biggest challenges, from the economy and the cost of living to government accountability and foreign policy. And there's something that doesn't connect here. People are frustrated, but they're spending money. They're concerned about the economy, but they're spending money. I don't know. It just seems to me, that this may be a little bit different, as Newt Gingrich has suggested, that the economy may come roaring back, and the only thing that has ever saved the party in power during a midterm election is having the economy be in really, really, really good shape. So if that is the case, and you look at the Democrats, and they are increasingly perceived as being way out there on the left, not in sync with America at all. And if they keep pushing that stuff because they think it's working, but it's really not working, then I think what we're going to find at the end of the day is perhaps a better outcome in the midterm elections than we have reason to believe. I mean, the midterms can be ugly to the party in power. Not uncommon at all to lose 20, 30. I think Obama lost 60 House seats in his midterm election. Midterms came along, and this is the one he called a shellacking. So, yeah, it can be bad, but the only hope, the only thing that overcomes bad news for the party in power during a midterm election is a strong economy. And I think that Newt Gingrich has it right when he says,
if you tell me the price of gasoline on Labor Day, I'm pretty confident I can tell you about the election.
So let's hope that gasoline keeps going down and that the deal with Iran is done. 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, traffic gets lively out there when it rains, and that's what it's doing right now. Meanwhile, in our nation's capital, President Trump on the losing end of a couple of federal judges' rulings today. He's also in the Situation Room to make what he posted it could be a final decision on Iran. These stories and more coming up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Ken Weaver in the newsroom, bringing you all the news and information that you need at the top and the bottom of the hour. RJ is pushing the blinky buttons. I am Brian Wilson, in for Matt Murphy, who will return on Monday. He's apparently out there playing with trucks.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
Do you, I mean, how fast are you allowed to push this?
I
mean, you're taking a lap in somebody else's race truck.
Right.
I mean,
they're trucks, so I don't know how fast they're really going to go, but you never know what rednecks do when they have access to money.
Well, I'll tell you something. If I was out there, I wouldn't pull my punch.
Now, Brother Brian would be redlining.
You bet.
I've seen you pull into the parking lot here. I know Brother Brian. He's used them wide open spaces out there in West Texas.
Well, you know, and I got I'm driving the fastest vehicle I've ever driven now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
How do you know that, Brother Brian?
Well, because I'm telling you, anybody who gets into my vehicle and I let them drive it,
yeah,
and they hit the accelerator hard, their jaws just fall wide open. And if people don't know, I'm driving an electric truck now.
Yes, sir.
And it's the fastest thing I've ever driven. Now, it doesn't have a great top-end speed. Like on the racetrack, it wouldn't be good.
Right.
Because, you know, it tops out at about 100, but who needs to go 100 miles an hour? Nobody.
All right.
Yeah, no, really, honestly, on our streets and highways, nobody needs to be driving 100 miles an hour.
No, sir.
There's a lot of people out there that don't need to be driving 80 miles an hour, and you know who you are.
There's a lot of people out there in our area that don't need to be driving at all.
Glance down right now at your speedometer and tell me how fast you're driving. I bet it ain't 70 right now.
55.
Unless you're stuck in traffic.
To everyone on 24, you're excused from looking at your speedometers. We know you're not moving.
Right.
That's true.
So anyway, you know, he's out there today doing all that. Want to talk, if I could, very quickly in the 4 minutes that I have left before it's time for the news with Ken Weaver, about Joe Biden. I mean, Jill Biden has come out and said some really incredibly stupid things. Have you heard this? This is how it was discussed by those lefties over at CNN.
A stunning admission from Jill Biden about her husband's debate performance. Take a listen.
Were you horrified as you saw it unfold?
I wasn't horrified, I was frightened because I had never, ever seen Joe like that before or since. Never.
Or since?
Yes. Or since.
Now that's hard to believe. She says that she never saw Joe Biden do the thing that we all saw him do during the debate with Trump.
Never seen him like
Never.
that?
No.
What happened?
I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke.
She says, oh, I was so worried that I thought he was having a stroke. That doesn't add up at all.
And it scared me to death.
That interview comes just weeks before the release of the former First Lady's new memoir.
That's what this is all about.
And it's the first time that we've heard her express any concern about that debate that ultimately ended Joe Biden's 2024 campaign. But that stands in stark contrast to what Jill Biden had to say just moments after the debate.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Why?
So, a few minutes earlier, she was upset because she thought her husband was having a stroke. So she carries him out to a big rally. That's not what you do if you think your husband is having a stroke and you've never seen it before.
Right.
And then I think they went to a Waffle House, didn't
Yes,
they?
they did.
He got promised a chocolate chip waffle if he did good during the debate.
This doesn't make any sense at all. And even the lefties on CNN in the panel weren't buying it.
your instant reaction to the Joe Biden overall.
You know, we talked about this a little bit in the last segment. When you lie to people right to their face, they have a tendency to not trust you. Mm-hmm. And, you know, a lot of people knew something was wrong with Joe Biden. I went to a dinner in Detroit, an AACP dinner. He was the guest speaker. His speech was great, but seeing him just make the walk to the stage, I was concerned. I was like, hey, this dude doesn't look right. But I would say that, especially now, as we're looking at a president who often showcases that he is unwell, that we need to apply those same questions that a lot of people had then.
So now they're trying to say, now, if you were worried about Biden, now none of us were worried about Biden when he was president, and we were all propping him up. But if you were worried about looking back on Joe Biden, well, now you got to be worried about Trump. Well, it's night and day between those two. Trump has got it going on in a way that Joe Biden never did on his best day.
People had the right to wonder about Joe Biden's health after seeing that debate, and those questions were fair and they were legitimate. I think the problem is that now those same questions aren't being asked, even though we're seeing things that are just as concerning, if not worse.
It's hard to believe. Hard to believe they're trying to sell that. Time for the news with Ken Weaver at 30 minutes past the hour.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. A federal judge saying today President Trump cannot close or rename the Kennedy Center, ruling that it cannot be officially named for anyone unless Congress approves it. And President Obama, 2014 appointee Christopher Cooper, ruled that the rebranding of the Kennedy Center as the Trump Kennedy Center is in violation of the law. He ordered Trump's name be removed from the building within 2 weeks of his order. Another judge temporarily blocking the Trump administration's efforts to create the so-called anti-weaponization fund. The fund would offer compensation to those who claim to have been wronged by the Biden administration. President Trump says he is in the Situation Room to make what he posted to social media is a final decision on Iran. He says the U.S. is lifting the naval blockade of Iran and ships can start heading home. He also says Iran will help the U.S. collect the so-called nuclear dust from last year's massive bombing of their nuclear bunkers. But at this hour, there's no official confirmation that a deal has been signed. Karen Travers, what is Iran saying?
They're pushing back on these points that the president put out in that social media post and laying out their own demands for what a short-term agreement would be. And they include having some control over traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. They want to see $12 billion in frozen assets released to Iran before they agree to anything. They are not willing to commit to turning over that enriched uranium. And also, they're putting Lebanon back on the front burner, saying that there has to be a complete ceasefire there in order to get an agreement between the U.S. and Iran.
And after months of soaring costs, oil is heading for a steep monthly decline, the biggest price drop since 2020. Gasoline prices dropping too. Here in Middle Tennessee, Gas Buddy putting the average at $4.07 per gallon. That is down more than 16 cents from last week. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. So rain is still falling and people are trying to get home, but there is a number of crashes in the way. 40 eastbound near Church Street. 24 eastbound after Hickory Hollow Parkway in Antioch. Eastern Split. 40 eastbound there at exit 213A. Hermitage, 40 eastbound before Stewart's Ferry Pike. Lebanon, 40 eastbound near I-840. Smyrna, 24 eastbound near Sam Ridley. South Loop, 40 eastbound there at exit 210C. 24 eastbound near the Springfield Ashland City exit. Talbot's Corner, 65 southbound where 65 and 24 come together. Then we got a stalled vehicle on the left shoulder, 65 northbound at Armory Drive. I'm Ken Weaver.
It is difficult to find someone that you can trust in the HVAC industry, which is why I repeatedly tell you about Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. I trust this man as the day is long. He's got a great staff of people that work underneath him at Efficient Heating and Cooling. He does not strive to be the biggest HVAC company in the state of Tennessee. He simply wants to be the best, the most regarded. And I trust him, a small company with big service and big results in mind. He helped me when I moved into my new home. I put in a new HVAC unit. Thank you to Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. And now he wants you to give him a call if you've not done your maintenance yet on your HVAC, on your air conditioner. Time to do it. Plenty of time to get it done. And you get that maintenance guarantee when you get it done. And you never pay over $125, no matter how many units you have within their service area. There are Elite Pro partners with Rheem. When it comes time, they'll find the right unit for you and your family. All you need to do is make the call that so many others have made. 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or online at efficienthvac.net. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy. Let's talk for a moment about that insurance of yours. Do you have King & Associates insurance? If you don't, I'm not saying, oh, you need to get the King & Associates insurance and you need to turn over. I mean, I want you to use King & Associates mainly because they're better than the other guys. They work for you. They don't work for the insurance companies. Whether you're a first-time homeowner or a growing family just shopping for better automobile rates, they make it pretty simple. They don't try to push you into any decision-making. They just offer you honest advice, personalized service, and policies that make sense for you. They work for you. What does that mean? They don't work for any one insurance company. They shop the entire marketplace. They're independent, meaning that the big insurance companies don't tell them what to do, which is nice. You do, which is also nice. 329-8121 is the number, 329-8121, or online at kinginsurance.com. That's kinginsurance.com. King & Associates Insurance, protecting what matters most.
"37 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, in for Matt Murphy. He returns on Monday. He's out riding around in a very fast truck going left very fast. And we wish him well. Stay off the wall, Matt. Stay off the wall. Don't mess up the wall. That's don't mess up the truck and don't mess up the wall. Yeah, and if you get out of it and you haven't done either of those two things, you consider it success. That's what I'm saying. I want to talk about those, the loony left, the crazy Democrats, all kinds of stuff going on with regard to those folks over on the other side. And a lot of it has to do with there's a Nashville connection to this. Musical artists bail from Freedom 250 Fair over political involvement. Now, there were a bunch of people who had announced that they were going to participate in a big concert in Washington surrounding the 4th of July, a Freedom 250 Fair, and now apparently they are now backing out because somehow they have learned that Freedom 250 is a nonprofit that is backed by President Donald Trump, and of course they can't be connected to anything that has Trump on it on any level. Among those, Martina McBride. Let's see. The event, which is a nonprofit backed by President Donald Trump and his allies, Freedom 250 is run in parallel to America 250, a separate organization blessed by Congress a decade ago to prepare for America's semi-quincentennial. Unfortunately, What was presented to us, says Brett Michaels of Poison, was a celebration of our country involved in something much more divisive than what I agreed to be a part of, he wrote on Instagram. The Poison lead singer also said the safety of his fans, band, crew, and family was factored into the decision, including threats that he said were completely unfounded and unforgivable. If the left doesn't like what you're doing, they threaten you. And I can tell you, I've been a part of that. I mean, I was getting crank phone calls at 3 o'clock in the morning from people simply on the left, simply because they didn't like me or they thought I was somebody else. So there you have it. It happens. So Martina McBride, Brett Michael, who else? I'm trying. Oh, Young MC and the Commodores have all backed out, and apparently there may be others. Here's another story on it from RedState.com. Fans shred country star Martina McBride after she caves to the mob and bails on the Great American State Fair. Country star Martina McBride is catching hell from furious fans after seemingly caving to the woke mob and bailing on the Great American State Fair, a major Freedom 250 event celebrating America's 250th anniversary on the National Mall. Why? Because it's too political. An event celebrating the anniversary of the greatest nation on the planet, Martina McBride believes is too political. In a lengthy Instagram statement, McBride claimed that she was, quote unquote, misled into believing that the June 25th concert would be a wholesome, nonpartisan celebration of all 50 states, only to pull out once the details became clear. I would like to talk to you and clear the air, she announced. I will not be performing at the Great American State Fair on June 25th. I was presented with the opportunity to perform at a nonpartisan event, but that turned out to be misleading. So, simply because it's a nonprofit that is supported by Donald Trump, these left-leaning entertainers are having to run for the cover. They're not going to be there because they're catching all kinds of unmitigated hell. Can't we just agree to have a nice, lovely, nonpartisan 250th anniversary? It's a big deal to have survived as a union for 250 years. Can't we just all get together, put aside our differences, hear some good music, celebrate America? No, apparently we can't. Not if somehow the nonprofit that is operating all of this has any connection to the current president of the United States. That's nonsense. More from the loony left. Well, this is actually good news for our side. I don't know if you know it or not. A lot of people don't trust CBS News and certainly don't trust 60 Minutes. But CBS has a new boss. Her name is Bari Weiss, B-A-R-I Weiss, and she is in the process of trying to reorganize CBS News. CBS News has made sweeping changes, according to the Wall Street Journal, to its storied 60 Minutes program. You ready for this? Thursday, appointing a new executive director, cutting ties with multiple correspondents. Former New York Times columnist Rick Bilton will serve as the show's executive producer. CBS News President Tom Sabrowski and Editor-in-Chief Bari Weiss announced it in an email to staff on Thursday. The network is parting ways with the show's most recent executive producer, Tanya Simon. Tomorrow, Nick will begin meetings with staff across the organization to listen, learn, discuss what is working, identify opportunities for growth, and begin laying the groundwork for season 59. Hard to believe 60 Minutes has been around for 59 years. The pair acknowledged the difficult environment for journalism these days. Information is fragmented. Algorithms reward outrage. AI-generated misinformation is proliferating, and that's true. Audiences are overwhelmed, and they have lost trust in legacy media. Weiss was promised a significant shakeup to CBS News since she was brought in by Paramount Peace Guy Executive David Ellison last fall. At a January town hall, he said the network is not producing a product that enough people want and called for a radical shift in how it delivers the news. It used to be 60 Minutes was the big show. Number one in ratings, because a lot of times during the regular season, it followed football. It was there. The stories were interesting. The personalities were interesting. And at the end of the day, it used to be, it was watchable. Now it's become another platform for the left. Barry Weiss trying to change it and catching a lot of hell over at CBS. Not an easy thing to turn that aircraft carrier around on short notice. Stephen Colbert is gone from late night television. Can we all celebrate that? I mean, let's just... Yeah! He's gone! Nobody's going to miss him. Anyway, Stephen Colbert, there's a new story out here. Are you ready for this? Pretty interesting story I found in bleedingfool.com. Don't know anything about it, but I love this essay. Stephen Colbert didn't change late night television. He turned it something closer to a corporate re-education program, and viewers eventually tuned out. A new essay called The Writer Who Watched Laughter Die by Peter Giernus reveals what plenty of Americans had already begun to figure out. The Late Show was not about comedy anymore. It was about control. Giernus spoke to one of the writers on the show who was willing to admit that the show writers were paid, are you ready for this, up to $14,000 a week. Writers paid $14,000 a week, but they weren't putting out anything that was funny. Not to challenge power, but to fall in line and repeat a single political message. He was there. He watched what happened. The whiteboard, which is what they would identify their potential jokes on, changed from what's funny to what are they still saying wrong. In other words, it became no longer the desire to entertain, but to become a one-sided diatribe, and people tuned out. They were losing money. Tremendous amounts of money. Well, maybe if you're paying a writer's room and writers up to $14,000 a week and they aren't producing anything that's funny, they're just putting out diatribes against the right constantly, never anything different, never an equal opportunity offender, then people are going to go away, and that's what happened. Byron Allen, basically, he's going to pay them $15 million for that time slot. So they go from losing $40 million a year to making $15 million just by selling the time. It's a good move for CBS, and it was just a matter of time. I mean, Colbert really became so I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Harsh, a continual critic. Johnny One Note could only do one topic, and it was, how dumb is Donald Trump today? That was all he had to bring to the table. He never brought anything different. And I think it's why the show started to lose money. Carson was everybody agrees he was the best. I think when he retired, his last show had 55 million viewers. That's Super Bowl ratings. I think Colbert had 6. Tells you how far that time slot had fallen since he took over. Other news from the crazy Democrats: Gretchen Whitmer, the Michigan governor, has appeared to walk back earlier comments ruling out a 2028 presidential bid, telling reporters, never say never. She had earlier said she would not be running for the presidency. Now she's saying never say never. Okay, fine. Bring me all the Gretchen Whitmer that you want to bring to the table, Democrats. She said this to Fox 2 Detroit. I never thought I would run for governor, so I guess I should know better than to say any of it. Never say never. Earlier in the day, she appeared far more definitive when asked whether she planned to join what is expected to be a crowded field of Democrat contenders in 2028. I think there will be a robust group of people running for president, but I will not be one of them, she told them in 2028. Well, on one hand, she says she's not running, and then she says never say never. I don't know. Gretchen Whitmer has not impressed. And if you want to have her as your Democrat nominee, bring me all the Gretchen Whitmer you got. I'm telling you, not worried about it at all. And as you know, since I was with you a while back, we've had elections in Texas for the Senate race, and it's going to be Paxton versus Tallarico. And John Cornyn, the incumbent, will be out after his term expires. Tallarico is, first of all, how in the world does a vegetarian? Oh, he says he's not, but we all know that's not true. How does a vegetarian win in the state of Texas? I mean, come on. He said that God is non-binary. He's got all kinds of crazy stuff. He's trying to run to the middle, but he's hard to walk away from the things that he has said that are so outrageous. I personally thought that Cornyn was the stronger Republican candidate. Paxton has got all kinds of problems, but once Trump endorsed him, he won handily. I mean, I saw a thing that said that when Trump, before he endorsed him, that Paxton was ahead of Cornyn by only about 3 points. But after the endorsement, he won by something like 28 points. It was a stomping. It was an absolute stomping. I think Paxton will win. Cook Political Report has said it has moved from likely Republican to lean Republican with Paxton at the helm, but I still think the Democrats will spend an awful lot of money trying to turn Texas into a blue state, and once again, they will fail. 51 minutes now past the hour.
Legendary coach Lou Holtz once said, before people spend money, they ask 3 questions. Can I trust you? Are you committed to excellence? And do you care about me? Friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I can say with Eurofix, those 3 answers are an emphatic yes, yes, and yes. Back in 1999, owner Aaron Stokes was by himself in a one-car garage in downtown Franklin. A few months later, he moved into a shop in a barn behind his house so he could stay close to his family while building his dream of offering the best European vehicle repair at below dealer pricing. Flash forward to today. The barn's gone, and sadly, I'm here to say that Aaron is gone too. But Eurofix is continuing that tradition that he laid out over the 26 years that he was a part of the Eurofix family and really the driving force behind it. Thriving in 5 separate locations: Nashville, Franklin, Belmead, Murfreesboro, and Mount Juliet. 3-year, 36,000-mile nationwide warranty. Free, a rental car available at every appointment. Friends, it is time. If you want solid European auto repair, get to Eurofix. Go to myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com.
President Trump still in the Situation Room. He came out on the losing end of a couple of federal judges' decisions today. Epstein victims not happy about former Attorney General Pam Bondi's behind closed-door testimony today. All this and more coming up at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's Ken Weaver in the newsroom. You'll have the news here in just about 3 minutes. In the meantime, let me just tell you, I want to compare and contrast Maryland to Tennessee. I am never so glad that I got out of Maryland when I did. Maryland governor has signed a Glock ban triggering a major Second Amendment lawsuit. The Second Amendment Foundation, National Rifle Association, Firearms Policy Coalition have filed a federal lawsuit challenging Maryland's newly signed handgun restriction law after Governor Wes Moore approved Senate Bill 334 this week, signed it into law. Legislation prohibits the manufacture, sale, transfer, or purchase of so-called, quote-unquote, machine gun convertible pistols. Now, this is aimed at Glock, which is one of the most popular guns in America. And the Maryland law bans nearly every Glock and Glock-style handgun on the market today, according to SAF Executive Director Adam Kraut. These pistols were among the most popular on the market, chosen in overwhelming numbers by peaceable citizens for lawful purposes like self-defense. Compare and contrast what's happening in Maryland with what's happening in Tennessee right here in our own backyard tomorrow at the Glock store. We're having a celebration of the Glock. It's going to be something. The Glock store is one of our big sponsors here at Super Talk 99.7. Runs, if you don't know where it is, it's 1930 Airlane Drive. Runs from 10 to 2 tomorrow. They're going to give away some $50,000 worth of giveaways, and you definitely want to try to get there if you can. CEO Lenny McGill of the Glock store says that it's going to be the biggest open house yet. $50,000 worth of merchandise. Around 800 people expected to attend. And listen to this. Food trucks. And I happen to know very well one of the food vendors that will be there because I'm married to her. Cabana Wife Cookies will have its booth there at the Glock store, and I'll be there, so I hope you'll drop by. Say hello to me, say hello to Cabana Wife, get a couple of cookies, go in and enjoy this event. It's going to be a great day, and a lot of the guys from Super Talk will be there tomorrow at the Glock store out on Airline Drive. Don't miss it. Going to be a big, big fun day. 5 o'clock at Super Talk 99.7. Time for the news with Ken Weaver.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Still got some rain out there, and we've got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. We're waiting to see if there is indeed going to be a deal between the U.S. and Iran for an extended ceasefire. President Trump posting to Truth Social this morning he was headed into the Situation Room to make a final decision. ABC News contributor and former Defense Department official for the Mideast, Mick Mulroy, says Iran will not be willing to give up its control over the Strait of Hormuz.
The Strait of Hormuz has turned out to be a very significant card. It wasn't, I think, unexpected. It's been an issue going back to the 1980s. Perhaps we didn't expect it to have this level of success from their part, but it's really their major card, potentially their only card, but they're playing it well, if you want to go with the analogy there.
Meanwhile, oil markets seeing a sharp reversal with prices falling more than 20%, and it is apparently impacting gasoline prices. Here in Middle Tennessee, Gas Buddy says the average price right now is $4.07 per gallon. And
halfway through.
And it looks like that is 16 cents less than last week, or lower than last week. Two federal judges' decisions run counter to what President Trump wants. One says he cannot rename the Kennedy Center the Trump Kennedy Center, and another federal judge has blocked the so-called anti-weaponization fund for People who think they were unfairly targeted by the Biden administration's Justice Department, including Jan Sixers. Meanwhile, Epstein victims not happy about former Attorney General Pam Bondi's behind closed doors testimony on her handling of the Epstein files today.
We think that there are really important central questions and have never been answered. And I imagine that us getting to the bottom of those questions really means seeing those documents.
Bondi said to the best of her knowledge, all materials required by law were released, and she did acknowledge some redaction errors, but called the effort an unprecedented push for transparency. And as millions of soccer fans prepare to travel to North America for the World Cup, countries are ramping up restrictions in response to the latest Ebola outbreak. ABC's Shannon Kingston has more from the State Department.
The U.S., Mexico, and Canada say they are launching coordinated travel measures aimed at preventing the spread of the Ebola virus during the World Cup. Secretary of State Rubio saying that nobody exposed to the virus will be admitted.
We cannot and will not allow any cases of Ebola to enter the United States.
The State Department is also surging more than $100 million to fight the outbreak in Africa. Shannon Kingston, ABC News, the State Department.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Antioch, a crash. 24 eastbound after Hickory Hollow Parkway. Eastern split, a crash going eastbound there on 40 at exit 213A. Hermitage, a crash. 40 eastbound before Stewart's Ferry Pike. Stones River, a crash. Lebanon Pike at Dania Crest Drive. Charlotte Park, injury crash. American Road at Charlotte Pike, and then in Bellshire, got a disabled vehicle blocking the right lane. Briley Parkway eastbound near I-24 North. I'm Ken Weaver.
It's the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Hey, everybody, it's Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy, who will be back on Monday. Filling in, your friend and radio buddy, your friend and retired buddy, your Farb. I'm still here. I do two things these days. I spend a lot of time, filling in. I fill in for Dan, and I fill in for Matt, and I fill in for Chad, and I fill in for Chris. So there's a lot. Anytime, when you add up all the vacation time those people have, I work quite a bit. It's almost like I didn't leave. But anyway, still doing that. And then the other thing I do is I'm raising a new bulldog puppy, a French bulldog puppy, and that's a full-time job. Also, I'm the IT department for my wife's burgeoning cookie business. So a lot of things going on in my life, but happy to talk about what's going on in the world around us here. Filled for Matt today. He'll be back, as I said, on Monday. The big story today is what's going on with Iran. Have we dealt with Iran? Do we have a deal to bring this conflict to a close? And I would have to say right now at this hour, it's a big question mark. Don't know if we did or not. The markets like what they saw. Oil prices are down dramatically as a result of being very close to a deal, but the president was supposed to be in the Situation Room today, and he said that he wasn't coming out until he made his decision, but then he came out and didn't announce a decision. This just out from CNBC. President Donald Trump ended a meeting at the White House Situation Room without announcing his final decision on whether to approve a deal to pause the 3-month-old Iran war, an administration official told CNBC on Friday afternoon. Trump earlier Friday on Truth Social said he would be making his final determination during that meeting after listing everything that Iran must do for him to approve a deal. It was not immediately clear from Trump's post which of his make or break up conditions are already part of a preliminary agreement that the U.S. and Iranian negotiators are working on to pause the war. Well, I can tell you what he said this morning. Let's go there. I have the quotes from Truth Social. Are you ready? This is from FoxNews.com, but it's really from the president's posting this morning on Truth Social. Iran must agree that they will never have a nuclear weapon or bomb. Well, I think that's number one, right? We can't allow that to happen. That's what this whole thing was about. The Strait of Hormuz must be opened immediately. No tolls for unrestricted shipping traffic in both directions. All water mines, bombs, if any, will be terminated. We have removed through detonation numerous such mines with our great underwater mine sweepers. Iran will complete the immediate removal and or detonation of any mines that are left, which will not be many, he says. He also said ships caught in the strait due to the amazing and unprecedented naval blockade, which will now be lifted, may start the process of heading home. Remember, we had a blockade in effect over there that stopped oil from transiting in or out of the Gulf of Hormuz, because that was one of the things that drove the Iranians to the table. Ships caught in the Strait of Hormuz due to our amazing and unprecedented naval blockade, which will now be lifted, may start the process of heading home. Say hello to your wives, husbands, parents, and families from me, your favorite president, Donald Trump. He also then went on to talk about enriched material, sometimes referred to as nuclear dust, which is buried deep underground with virtually collapsed mountains caused by B-2 bomber attacks 11 months ago. Again, he speaks he's known for his run-on sentences. I get a little lost reading them sometimes. He says that the United States and China are the only two countries which can recover that nuclear dust, and he wants to do it in close conjunction with the Islamic Republic of Iran, plus the International Atomic Energy Agency. No money will be exchanged, he says, until further notice. Other items of far less importance have been agreed to, and I will be meeting now in the Situation Room to make my final determination. That's what he said this morning. The meetings took place throughout much of the day. The meetings have now ended. No announcement from Trump about whether he is ready to end it agreed to the deal or whether they have gone back for more negotiation. So that's all I can tell you about that. Iran has been acting badly. I don't read a lot into this, in that Iran really, the leadership was destroyed, and inside Iran there is a power vacuum. So many people who are vying to be in charge, and if they have a different opinion than whoever it is we're negotiating with in Iran, then they can try to mess the thing up by launching a missile or, putting some mines in the water or whatever. And so they are still doing that. Not to a great deal, but that still happens. Iran reportedly launches missiles as Trump mulls deal to pause the war for 2 months. Iran's armed forces fired missiles at unidentified targets Thursday, local time, state media outlet Fars has reported. The latest military action in southern Iran came hours after the Pentagon said that Iran had launched a ballistic missile toward Kuwait and deployed attack drones in and around the strait. Earlier Thursday, a White House official confirmed an Axios report that the U.S. and Iran have mostly agreed to the terms of an agreement to temporarily end the 3-month-old war. Now, look, if there's a missile's launched or there's some small action, kinetic action, I wouldn't read too much into it. I would read that as the power struggle going on with Iran among disparate power factions that are trying to take control. Because remember, in the first minutes of this war, we took out about 3 levels of leadership, all in one felled swoop. So there are a lot of power brokers or would-be power brokers trying to regain control in that power vacuum. As you know, politics, especially in Iran, abhor a vacuum, and they will try to fill it. I think Trump has been smart not to let every little thing that happened that wasn't absolutely, what the Iranians said they were going to do. He's letting it slide a little bit because he understands that the left hand and the right hand are fighting right now inside Iran. Let's hope he's dealing with the right people. But I don't think that when you see something like this, is it a concern? Yes. Is it a big problem to the peace deal? Long term, I don't think so. And then the question becomes, if we wrap things up in Iran, what then would be the next step for our military? Here's a story that I think you'll find very interesting from westernjournal.com. U.S. military is prepared to strike Cuba at a moment's notice. If and when POTUS says go, we're ready. That's the headline. Roughly 65 years after the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion failed to topple the entrenched Castro regime, the potential of American boots on the ground in Cuba is being discussed as the weakened island's communist regime staggers along the weight of crushing American economic sanctions. We have really got them bollocksed up. They don't have fuel. They can't run their power plants. They can't provide electricity. It's bad. Military plans have been drafted as a possible summer collapse as envisioned by the Trump administration, according to Axios. Listen to this. Everything is on the table, but no invasion is planned or imminent, an official said. When POTUS says go, we're ready for anything. Summer could provide the catalyst. It's going to be hot. It's already hot in Cuba, I can tell you that right now. People won't have electricity. Food spoils without refrigeration. People get angry. They can take to the streets. And when that happens, I can't see the president doing nothing. There's repression, if there's repression. A Trump advisor said that the president does not want boots on the ground for more than 48 hours. It's a quagmire in the making, and things could get messy. So what I see here is they're going to see if things deteriorate. If there is an uprising among the people and the government of Cuba reacts to repress that uprising, then I think we'll be ready to move in. But we won't stay there long. Think of this as what happened in Venezuela. We're in, we make changes, we get out. They already brought the charges against Raul Castro. Something is going on there. I mean, the CIA flew a big 757 with America, the United States of America on the side of it, right into Cuba, and was able to right into Cuba, and they were able to have negotiations of some kind. So something is happening, and Castro has been indicted. One of the Castros, Raul Castro, has been indicted. And the question is, what happens next? The answer seems to be they're looking at the model that we saw in Venezuela as the way to go in, stabilize the situation, and get the heck out of Dodge. And I like it. I think that's a good plan. But it'll be interesting to see how that all plays. By the way, what are the Iranians saying about this deal? They're saying a lot, but they seem to be saying different things than Trump is saying. I don't know how this is going to work out, but I do know this. If you can get this thing resolved in short order, we can be in a situation where the economy is a lot stronger, and it will help us in the midterm elections because gas prices will come down. We've already seen that happen to some degree. Let me just once again go through these numbers because they're really quite amazing. With talk of a deal being very close already, West Texas Intermediate crude oil has dropped from just a few days ago. It was well above $100 a barrel. It's down now to $87 a barrel. Brent crude, $92 a barrel. It was at 106, I think it was, or 110 maybe at one point. So it's come down dramatically. The price of gasoline is coming down, but we're poised to have the biggest drop in gasoline prices that we've seen since post-COVID. It's already coming down, and it could come down even further. So what's happening? I can't tell you exactly what I think is going to happen with Trump. He's not putting out any statements. Not clear whether they had to go back for clarification on a couple of points. But the latest reporting that I have is that the meeting in the White House Situation Room has ended, and Trump has not yet announced his final decision on whether to approve a deal to pause the 3-month-old Iran war. It's not clear whether that's going to happen or not. And they weren't going to announce that until after the markets closed on Friday anyway. So we got a few days to sort of work it out before the markets reopen, before we start going back to futures on the oil market. So they got a little time to work it out. I'm hoping it works out. I hope that we're there. I think if we can get there, oil prices come down, the economy surges, midterm elections are going to be gangbusters for us. Really could be. Really could be. And I'll talk more about that coming up in the next hour here on The Matt Murphy Show. It is 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy.
Defense Systems is a life safety and security consultation firm. It's based right here in Middle Tennessee. The expertise of Defense Systems lies in their experience, right? Brink Fiddler is the owner of Defense Systems. He and his team, they have decades of experience in what they do, giving them firsthand involvement in defeating multitudes of security measures and technologies. In other words, they understand what you need to know about an active shooter response. They understand workplace violence. They understand security improvement, and they consult you in that regard. Emergency and intruder action plans. Bottom line is this, folks. You want the people at your place of business to understand what to do in the unlikely event, and it is unlikely, that you have a violent situation break out in your workplace or your school or your church. If you're a decision maker anywhere people gather, you owe it to your office, you owe it to your church or school to contact Brink Fiddler today at Defense Systems. DefenseSystems.com is the website, DefenseSystems.com. Or reach out at 615-236-6484, 236-6484 for Defense Systems.
President Trump's meeting in the Situation Room on Iran has concluded without a final decision. We'll let you know about that and more coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, that I hate one thing more than just about anything else on the planet.
What's that?
Snakes. I hate them.
Yeah, you do not like them.
Well, it's because I grew up in West Texas where the snakes can kill you.
Yes, sir.
And we got snakes here that can kill you, too. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, you are, as a Texan, if you go out into the country, you're going to encounter a rattlesnake. And we have a healthy respect for rattlesnakes. So that's part of why I don't like snakes. Now, I understand some snakes are good. And some snakes, well, they say all snakes are good. I don't agree with that. But listen to this. A snake caused a power outage in Gallatin. Cumberland Electric Membership Corporation reported Thursday that a power outage affected about 3,300 members. Power's been restored after crews were able to track down the cause of the outage and repair it. They say it was caused by a snake in the substation. That tells you everything you need to know about snakes. They're sneaky. They want to take out your power.
And that one's cooked.
Yeah, that one did not survive, I'm certain. And then I found this other, as long as we're talking about snakes, in the Tennessean, there was the weirdest story. About snakes. You ready? What do you do if a snake lands on your car? That's the headline. Well, first of all, how often does a snake land on your car? I'm all for news you can use, but how often does this occur to people? Is this something that happens? A snake falling on your car?
I guess it could fall from a tree.
I suppose.
I had a snake fall on me in a warehouse once.
Really?
Yeah, it was up in the rafters, and it was apparently going for mice or something. It fell, hit me on the head.
Well, I would just die on the spot. That would be the end of me. What to do if it lands on your windshield? What would you think you should do if a snake fell on the windshield of your car?
If you're driving,
I guess.
I would just move the windshield wipers to high.
Well, it says actually you're close. Stick this in in your back pocket and remember it in case it ever happens that a snake has fallen on your car.
All right.
Turn on your windshield wipers, but not at the highest speed.
Oh.
You don't want to accidentally catapult it onto another car. I don't care as long as it's off mine.
Yeah, I'm not going to be worried about anybody else.
I'm going to hit the windshield wipers. What if it lands on the open roof or by a window
of your car?
Yeah.
Pull over as soon as you can.
It says do not attempt to grab the snake. It could potentially be poisonous or cause more havoc. Do turn off the engine and exit the vehicle calmly. Well, there won't be any calmness, but I will exit the vehicle. Doesn't leave by itself. Reach out to your local animal control person. And by the way, if a snake does bite you, according to the Mayo Clinic, it's important to call 911, especially if the bitten area changes color, swells, or is painful. Move away from the snake. Well, of course. Stay still and calm. Remove jewelry, watches, or tight clothing. You know something I read the other day?
What's that?
That you don't necessarily need to catch the snake. People say, well, if you get bit by a snake, you got to kill it so you can identify it, so they give you the right anti-venom when you get to the emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
I read the other day that basically all the anti-venoms work on all of the major known snakes.
That is good to know.
Yeah, so you don't need to catch the snake. You just need to. I would stay calm. I would call 911, and I would get to the emergency room as quick as I possibly could. But again, what a weird story.
Yeah,
I just never knew that was a major problem that needed a lot of reporting. Snakes falling on cars.
I could just see the assignment editor tossing that out there during the meeting. What do you say about snakes?
Well, I'll tell you something. You know why they do snake stories?
Why is
Same
that?
reason I did them. People are fascinated by stories having to do with snakes.
Oh, yes.
You get a lot of clickbait on snake stories.
Yeah.
So if you can say anything about a snake, people are largely going to click to find out what's in the story. I don't know why, but it's one of those things. Here, very quickly, because I got about a minute left. Apparently, AT&T is getting out of the business of landlines. Remember the old landline? You used to have a phone hanging in your kitchen?
You betcha.
Or, maybe back in the bedroom. I mean, apparently they're not going to do landlines anymore. And they're actually going in and taking out most of the copper and replacing it with newer technology. I guess fiber, etc. I don't know what it is. But they apparently, this is talking about a lady here who's had a landline for more than 40 years. She doesn't use it very often, but she says that AT&T came in and said, we're taking out your phone line, putting in some new technology. We'll still have a phone, but I don't know what kind of new technology they're putting in, but it won't be the old landline with copper wires. So there you go. Get ready for that.
Well,
do you have a landline at the house anymore?
No, haven't had one in a long time.
No, I haven't either.
I can't remember the last time we had a landline.
I think that may be the last. There aren't many of them out there, but there you have it. AT&T says we're going to get rid of them. We're going to replace them with newer technology. It is now time for the news at 5:30 with Super Talk 99.7's Ken Weaver.
.5:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. President Trump apparently delaying a decision on a possible deal to pause the 3-month conflict with Iran. He ended a Situation Room meeting today without announcing what he called a final determination. Trump says Iran must give up nuclear weapons ambitions and reopen the Strait of Hormuz to unrestricted shipping. Iranian officials are pushing back, saying key U.S. demands are not part of the draft agreement. ABC News contributor and former Defense Department official for the Mideast, Mick Mulroy, says Iran has said it has a right to enrich uranium.
If they want a civilian nuclear program, they can get lower enriched uranium from outside the country that they can use. So them wanting to keep enrichment is going to tell a lot in the U.S. national security establishment. They want the capacity to build a nuclear weapon.
Meanwhile, word of a possible deal has sent oil prices plunging, possibly the biggest monthly drop in 6 years, offering some relief at the pump. Gas Buddy putting the average price per gallon in Middle Tennessee today at $4.07. That is 16 cents lower than last week. And President Trump on the losing end of a couple of federal judges' rulings today. One judge says he can't rename the Kennedy Center, the Trump Kennedy Center, and another judge temporarily blocking disbursement of anything from the so-called anti-weaponization fund from the IRS settlement for anyone claiming they were unfairly targeted by President Biden's Justice Department. ABC News legal contributor Kim Whaley explains.
This is going to stay with this lower court judge, and then when there's a final resolution, only then will the Trump administration have the ability to appeal it.
Here in Nashville, city leaders have approved changes to make it easier to open child care centers across the city. The new legislation removes decades-old zoning rules, including one that blocked daycares from operating within 1,000 feet of each other. Leaders say the move is aimed at addressing a major shortage, with current capacity meeting just a little over half of the need in Nashville. Officials stress safety and licensing requirements for daycares will stay in place while access expands. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Crashes 65 northbound before Rosa Parks Boulevard. Bradley Parkway at Murfreesboro Pike, exit 4 over there by B&A. Gallatin Pike at East Trinity Lane. We've got 40 eastbound right next to the Eastern Split, exit 213A. Then Old Hickory Boulevard at I-40 in Hermitage. Bellshire, disabled vehicle blocking the right lane. Briley Parkway eastbound near I-24. I'm Ken Weaver.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy, brand new sponsor alert. It's Timberland Cabinetry, timberlandcabinets.com. They were founded in Middle Tennessee in 2005. Their entire factory is located in Columbia. I found these guys almost by accident. I stopped by doing running an errand for a friend of mine. Well, Keith from Contour. I don't mind telling you. Keith from Contour said, hey, would you pick up some cabinets from Timberland? And then I got to talking to Steve and the rest of the crew at Timberland, Deb over there at the front desk. And man, oh man, they're good people. We love good people. We love good businesses. And I said, y'all need to let me tell everybody about what you do. Plus, we need some cabinets in the kitchen area of our home. They serve homeowners, home builders, remodelers, and dealers across the United States of America, but made locally right here in our state. They can walk you through and show you the entire process from start to finish, and it's fascinating. I did this, and I love the fact that the factory's right here. We're employing Middle Tennessee folks, and these are solid cabinets. These are wooden cabinets. You're not going to find any particle board or anything like that. No low quality that can't handle moisture or steady use. This is solid wood, hardwood cabinets, and you don't have to pay a lot to get a lot at Timberland Cabinets. I want you to go to timberlandcabinets.com. That's timberlandcabinets.com. I've also got a telephone number for you because, I like to do this, particularly with our new sponsors to the Matt Murphy Show. Give them a call and thank them for sponsoring the show because we so appreciate them. We so appreciate what they do. They have showrooms in Columbia and Franklin. Find out more at timberlandcabinets.com or 931-499-7170. 499-7170 for Timberland Cabinets. One word that comes to mind when you think about Genesis Diamonds: integrity. This is a company built on a solid foundation with total transparency and honesty. This is why they don't have commissioned salespeople. They pay their employees, not you. So you aren't under any pressure to be sold anything. You don't have to feel any pressure to buy either. They share with you the long-held secrets of the diamond industry, teaching you the tricks to maximize the value of your purchase. They show you how to buy like a dealer buys. Another thing at Genesis Diamonds, they don't play pricing games. Unlike other jewelry stores, they work on a very small margin. They don't mark up or mark down prices. They offer the best value around every day. And when they have a sale, it is the real deal. Take it from me, not a phony event. We're lucky to have Genesis here. They're not just another big box corporate chain store. They're locally owned with international connections that guarantee no middleman pricing on every diamond. And don't forget, only Genesis has the top bridal designer brands that everyone wants. You'll love the experience there. Trust me, I know I do. Genesis Diamond, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
It is 38 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy on the Matt Murphy Show. Matt's out driving a truck around a big speedway very fast, trying to not mess up the truck or the wall of the speedway. That's the goal. We've got a lot of stuff going on here today. We're trying to figure out, quite frankly, we don't know. Nobody seems to have a good beat on it, where we are with the Iran negotiations late in the day. Now, Throughout the day, the president said he was going to go into the Situation Room to help make his final decision about whether or not we could come to a conclusion with the conflict against Iran, basically a 60-day deal that would take the... Sorry if you hear my printer in the background. I'm printing off hot stuff, hot off the presses. It would basically, if you could get this deal done, you could actually solve this problem and move forward. 60-day extension, and oil prices can come back. We don't know what's going on, but the Situation Room thing has ended without a final determination. Here's I'm just hot off the printer. This is from CNN. Iran's new authority to manage... I don't know where that's coming from. I'm sorry. Iran's new authority to manage Strait of Hormuz condemns U.S. sanctions. Okay, here we go. Trump convenes situation meeting for final determination on Iran deal, makes new demand for nuclear dust. This from NewYorkPost.com. This is late this afternoon, updated about 5 o'clock East Coast time, so about an hour old. Peace deal with Iran appeared within reach on Friday after President Trump convened a lengthy meeting in the Situation Room to hammer out the details and make clear his red line on Iran's nuclear dust. Negotiations are close, but not finalized, says a senior administration official speaking to the New York Post. However, Tehran has not publicly agreed to give up its enriched uranium before the Strait of Hormuz is reopened. President spent over 2 hours in the Situation Room on Friday with Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, other senior administration officials to discuss the details, which would include reopening the Strait of Hormuz, dropping the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports, and potentially seeing the U.S. digging out and destroying Iran's leftover enriched uranium. All of those things are what Trump needs to happen. But apparently there was some question about the $68 million, or is it $1 billion, I think it is, that we have tied up through all kinds of financial action. We've tied up a lot of money that belongs to Iran through all these sanctions that we have out there, and they're not happy with how that is being handled. So sounds like it's back to the negotiating table, although it's not clear. Is this just something that can be cleared up in a couple of hours? Is this something that we need to go back to the negotiating table at all? Is Trump now going to renew the military action against Iran? None of that, I would say, at this hour is very clear. They're still saying we're close, but we couldn't get there today. So that's where we are now. The other big developing story this afternoon, which I think is pretty interesting, a federal judge blocked the rebranding of the Kennedy Center, and they say that they have to take Trump's name off of the building within the next 2 weeks. U.S. District Judge Christopher Cooper sided with Representative Joyce Beatty, Democrat of Ohio, an ex officio member of the center's board who challenged the remaking of the storied Performing Arts Center in the nation's capital. The Kennedy Center's organic statute makes it crystal clear the center is to be named for President Kennedy and cannot bear any other formal name or public memorial based on the board's unilateral say-so. Goes on to say Congress gave the Kennedy Center its name, and only Congress can change it. The center's vice president of public relations vowed to appeal the name change decision. We will review the decision carefully, but Trump apparently is ready to walk away. We are going to be working with Congress to transfer this failing institution back to them so they can make a determination as to what to do with it. Workers added the president's name to the building signage late last year. The judge demanded that it be removed within the next 2 weeks. I mean, Trump has a lot of great ideas about, why wouldn't you want to take advantage of this guy's ability? What can he do? He can build buildings, nice buildings. He's in the process now of, I've got a whole list of things that are going on. He's doing an arch. He wants an arch that will be the thing you cross over the Potomac River coming into D.C. from the Virginia side. You will go through an arch. It's really beautiful. I think it's fantastic. We don't have one. Other countries have arches. Why can't we have an arch? I think it's fine. He's trying to repaint the reflecting pool, and he's getting nothing but unmitigated hell from the Democrats who don't like the shade of blue that he's using to paint the bottom. Well, what he doesn't know is that actually will look beautiful when the water is there and it reflects the sky. I mean, experts who've looked at it said it's exactly the right color, but they're all bent out of shape because it's not muddy and full of goop and goose poop. That's what it was before he started cleaning it up. He wants it to look nice. He's already started to clean up some of the fountains around town, putting the money there along with the Interior Department to bring our nation's capital into a thing of beauty again. Remember, many of us who remember back in the day that this used to be what first ladies did. First ladies would take on making Washington beautiful. Lady Bird Johnson. Many of the parks that you see in the Washington area were put there by Lady Bird Johnson back in the Johnson administration. Trump has this unique ability to build things effectively much cheaper than the government can do them. And in many of these cases, he's gone to his friends and said, help me pay for this. I'll put in some money. You put in some money. We won't burden the government with this. We'll just get it looking better. And all that Washington has done is harumphed. There's a lot of harumphing going on there, Ken Weaver. Harumph, harump, harump, harump. But apparently they're going to have to go back to the drawing board on the Kennedy Center. I haven't been to the Kennedy Center in quite a while, but the last time I was there, it was still, I went and saw the symphony play. I've been there for a number of events over the years. I didn't notice that it was looking ratty, but apparently since I left Washington, it really has gone downhill. And I've been out of Washington now for about 10 or 15 years. So, it needs probably some upgrading. But why wouldn't we allow Trump to do it if all it takes is to put his name on the building? I don't know, but we'll see how that all works out. So two big stories: Situation Room meeting over. Final determination has not yet been reached about whether or not we are going to a ceasefire that goes 60 days. Has the deal been done? Apparently there are concerns about the United States going in and getting the nuclear dust, last-minute concerns from Iran about money that we have tied up through embargoes, etc., and we'll see what that happens. And then the judge has said that Trump can no longer be, his name can no longer be on the Kennedy Center. Iran's new authority to manage the Strait of Hormuz condemns U.S. sanctions. They have an authority that is managing the Hormuz Strait, and they are attacking the president for wanting to keep the strait open. See, the Iranians learned one thing, that strategic waterway where 20% of the world's oil and natural gas passes through that little 30-mile gap called the Strait of Hormuz. Apparently, they realized that they have more of an impact on the world and can have more of an impact on getting the world to do the things it wants it to do by shutting down the Strait of Hormuz than they could by having nuclear weapons. So we're trying to figure out how to make sure they never have a nuclear weapon and that the Strait of Hormuz stays open. It'll be interesting to see how that all gets resolved. It is now, let's call it 48 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for U.S. Pest. I tell the story of J.K. and Erica Brister taking over U.S. Pest years ago and just growing that company by leaps and bounds. They do it the right way, too. They hire great people. They have a great work ethic and a simple philosophy. They want to eliminate the things on your home, in your home, I should say, on your property that bug you. And it's bugs, right? whether it's termite protection that you're looking for, maybe you're looking to eliminate fleas and ticks. As the spring becomes summer, that's become more and more of an issue, and it will continue to be an issue. Maybe it's, my battle with carpenter bees. I've solving that battle. Thanks to U.S. Pest. J.K. and Erica Brister love these United States of America, and they hate bugs. And it's evident in every aspect of what they do at U.S. Pest. Go to uspest.com, uspest.com to find out more. Don't forget free inspection, free termite and pest inspection for you at no obligation. They don't try to pester you. They don't try to bug you. See what I did there? They simply want to give you the best service available. So if you don't currently have a pest control contract, you need one. And if you do and you're not satisfied, it's time to call U.S. Pest. 590-1260, 590-1260 for U.S. Pest.
No final word yet from the White House on a potential U.S.-Iran deal. This story and more coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I think it's very interesting, Ken Weaver, that they don't know exactly how the negotiations ended. I mean, what is the hang-up if there's no deal? I mean, we don't seem to have that little very important piece of information, and I'm surprised we're not. I understand Trump's going to do an interview, I think, tomorrow with Lara Trump. It'll be on Fox, so we may get some indication there, but we're really not getting a lot of information out of the White House about where we are on the negotiations. Are we close or are we not close?
I figure some things will start trickling out here pretty soon. We may get some, sources say, that sort of thing, that might give us a few more details. But, Yeah, I go back to what President Trump said this morning on his Truth Social post, and it strikes me that did he say a final decision or did he say final determination? Because determination and decision to me are two different things. Like a decision would be, okay, here's what we're doing. Determination might be, well, maybe
this is
we
where
need
we're
to.
headed.
Yeah, this is where we're headed. So I'm trying to get back to that. Yeah, it says, all right, Iran must agree that they will never have a nuclear weapon or bomb. The Hormuz Strait must be immediately open, no tolls. All water mines, if any, will be terminated. Let's see here. Go down here. Where does he say that he's going in? Good grief, now I just lost it. Anyway, the wording is very important here, as it always is. And to me, a final decision is different than a final determination.
Right. So the determination would be, this is our final plan.
Right.
But we're not through implementing
Okay,
it yet.
here it is. Other items of far less importance have been agreed to. I will be meeting now in the Situation Room to make a final determination.
Well, you're right. That's an interesting choice of words.
So, yeah, to me, the determination is that language is kind of an off ramp, meaning that we're going to continue talking. Maybe. Whereas decision to me means a line in the sand.
It's a done deal, right?
Right.
Well, I hope that we're close because the markets like it.
They do.
Oil prices are coming down. We need to be mindful of the midterm elections.
Yeah, gasoline prices have been coming down all afternoon here in Middle Tennessee. It's down to 406 now. It this morning it was up around 409. So I know it's not significant, but it's better than going up. It's ticking down.
That's right.
And that's what we want.
Hey, listen, you know that I am the repository of all moon news?
Yes, sir.
And always have been. I love news about the moon.
You know about that moon, Brother Brian.
Well, wasn't long ago we were talking about supermoons. Supermoons are moons that are larger than normal because, the orbit of the moon around the Earth is not perfectly round. It's elliptical.
Right.
Sometimes the moon is closer. Sometimes the moon is further away.
Yes.
When it's close, we call it a supermoon. When it's a long way away, we call it a micromoon. And so tomorrow night we'll get, not only will it be a micromoon, it will be a blue moon.
Yes, sir.
Now, a lot of people don't know, you've heard that old saying, I haven't seen you in a blue moon. Or, that doesn't happen but once ever in a blue moon.
Right.
Well, basically, it happens every 2 to 3 years. A blue moon is how scientists refer to the second full moon in a single month. So if you have one in the first couple of days of the month, then you have another one at the end of the month. The second one is called a blue moon.
And that's what we're going to have.
And that's what we're going to have. Despite the name, according to experts, the blue moon does not appear blue. It simply refers to the uncommon occurrence of 2 full moons in 1 month. The moon will be at 252,360 miles. It will seem a bit smaller and dimmer. It's the opposite of a supermoon when the full moon comes closer than normal. The most recent supermoon, by comparison, was 225. So it's about 25,000 miles difference between a micromoon and a supermoon. There's everything you wanted to know about moons.
And what I understand from this is apparently there is a star, Antares, the brightest star in the constellation Scorpius, and one of the largest and most luminous red supergiants visible in the night sky, apparently is going to be very prominent near where it's going to appear very near to where the moon is tomorrow night.
Okay.
Which is going to be pretty cool to look at.
That's 550 light years away.
If these clouds will move away from Middle Tennessee, we might have a chance to see it.
Well, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
It would.
I'd love that. Blue moon, blue moon. What's that? Blue moon. Remember that song? That
Blue moon of Kentucky, keep on shining.
Well, there you go. But apparently, when you say something is rare, haven't seen you in a blue moon, that has to do with the fact that we only get blue moons once every once every couple of years, 2 or 3 years. The next one, 2028, December of 2028.
I'm going to
Gotta
mark
say,
that
I
on my
prefer
calendar.
the Blue Moon Detective Agency in Moonlighting.
Do what?
Say that again?
You were talking about Blue Moons. No one mentions Blue Moon Detective Agency, Moonlighting. Bruce Willis.
Wow, that's digging way back into the vault.
Haven't heard about that in a blue moon.
You know, that's good, Ken. That's good. You know, we all love our Buc-ee's around here. Do you know that Dolly Parton is opening something that's said to be a lot like Buc-ee's?
Really?
Yeah. The Queen of Country Music originally announced the Tennessee travel stop in November in Cornersville, and apparently it's going to open on June 24th.
Wow.
There you go.
In Cornersville?
Cornersville. Full-service restaurant, a dog park, and entertainment experiences.
Well, what do you know about that?
Yeah, I find Buc-ee's to be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it is
A lot of good
indeed.
people watching at a Buc-ee's, that's for sure. It is almost 6 o'clock. We got one more hour left of the Matt Murphy Show. I am Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy, and Ken Weaver is next with the news.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. No final word yet from the White House on a potential U.S.-Iran deal. President Trump met with top advisors, but stopped short of approving an agreement to extend a ceasefire. He's insisting on strict conditions, including no nuclear weapons and full access through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran disputes those terms, says any deal must include access to billions of dollars in frozen funds. Meanwhile, you may finally be getting a break at the pumps with oil prices dropping sharply this month. The average price of gas has eased slightly in some places. Right now, Middle Tennessee, Gas Buddy putting the average per gallon here in Middle Tennessee at $4.06. That's down more than 16 cents since last week. And President Trump on the losing end of a couple of federal judges' rulings today. Here's Karen Travers with one.
A federal judge said Friday that President Trump can't close or rename the Kennedy Center, ruling that it can't be officially named for anyone else unless Congress approves it. U.S. District Judge Christopher Cooper ruled that the rebranding of the Kennedy Center as the Trump Kennedy Center is a violation of the law, and he ordered that Trump's name be removed from the building within 2 weeks of this order. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Judge Cooper's an Obama appointee from 2014. ABC's Catherine Faulders on the other ruling, blocking the so-called weaponization fund that would offer compensation to those who claim to have been wronged by the Biden administration, including January 6ers.
We should note that no payments have gone out from this fund yet. The fund, as we've reported, is governed by this commission. It would be a 5-person commission that the administration has to put together. They have yet to announce the creation of that or yet to announce any commissioners, if you will. So what this order does is bars the administration from taking any further action in that way.
Here in Nashville, Metro leaders are cutting red tape to tackle the city's child care shortage. A newly passed bill removes outdated zoning restrictions that limited where daycare centers could open. Supporters say the changes will help providers grow and give families more options for affordable care. The city currently meets only about 56% of child care demand. And at least 5 people, including 2 children, are dead. Dozens are hurt after a bus slammed into multiple cars on I-95 in the middle of the night. ABC's Jay O'Brien reports.
First responders weaving through heavy traffic to get to the scene near Quantico, Virginia. Officials say the commercial bus bound for Charlotte from New York City with 34 passengers on board failed to slow down for a work zone. Passengers on the bus telling ABC News the driver was flying. Judy was sitting right behind the driver.
When the bus flipped, it flipped me over, threw me up out my seat, and threw me on top of a man in glass.
4 people in one vehicle and 1 in another were killed.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Belmont area, a crash, 65 northbound before Wedgwood Avenue. Over by the airport, Briley Parkway at Murfreesboro Pike. East Nashville, injury crash, Gallatin Pike at East Trinity Lane. A crash, 65 northbound before Rosa Parks Boulevard. In Hermitage, injury crash, Old Hickory Boulevard at I-40 East. Hadley Park, injury crash, 40 eastbound at Jefferson Street. That's going to be exit 207. I'm Ken Weaver.
It is 6 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You're listening to the Matt Murphy Show. Brian Wilson in for Matt, who will be back on Monday. I think he's going to be at the Glock store tomorrow, so maybe I'll get a chance to catch up with Matt face to face. Hope you'll join us for the Glock store event. Super Talk 99.7 going to have a lot of folks there. I'll be there with Cabana Wife cookies that are not free. You have to buy them. But we're going to have a cookie table there. We're one of the food vendors. I am the IT director and the carnival barker for Cabana Wife Cookies. So hope to see you there tomorrow at the Glock store. Starts at 10 o'clock, and come on by and say hello. Let's see. We got all kinds of stuff. I'm reading. We're trying to figure out, Ken Weaver and I are trying to figure out today what is going on. According to here, I know this guy, Patrick Ward. He works for Fox News. He has said that I'm trying to find it here. The Situation Room meeting on Iran concluded after approximately 2 hours. So they were only in the Situation Room for a couple of hours. And it's hard for reporters to know when things like that are over, because the only clue you have to what's going on in the Situation Room is when they tell you. When the president is in the Oval Office, there is a Marine Guard that's always out on the drive. He opens the door, but that is only when the president is in the Oval Office. So you can go out and say, well, is the Marine Guard there? Well, then the president's in the Oval Office. We don't know anything about what happens in the Situation Room, which is down in the bowels of the White House. But it concluded after 2 hours. And an official told Fox News, and this is a quote, President Trump will only make a deal that's good for America and satisfies his red lines. Iran can never possess a nuclear weapon. Okay. Trump earlier said he was headed to the Situation Room to make and Ken Weaver is right about this, final determination on the next steps involving Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. Now, then the story goes on to say that the White House declared a photo and travel lid at approximately 6:14 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Okay, Eastern Daylight Time. So that was an hour ago, 2 hours ago now, that happened. That would have been 5:14 our time. We're now almost 7:14 on the East Coast. So it's been about an hour that happened, but when you say a lid, what does that mean? Okay, let me see if I can explain that to you. Inside the White House, in the White House press room, there are a lot of places. You see the briefing room, but behind that briefing room are offices and cubicles and closets and little workstations where people who cover the White House hang out. It used to be at one point, I think it was Nixon's swimming pool, I want to say, but it's now the briefing room. They gather there and they have to hang out there. And when you're a reporter inside the White House and you're covering the White House on a daily basis, they will tell you at some point, they will call a lid for the day. And it's a photo and travel lid. And that means that generally speaking, short of breaking news, no more news is expected to come out of the White House today. They will simply say, you have a lid, and that means that the reporters can then go home for the day after filing their stories, and that there's not going to be any other determination. So I don't think we're going to find out anything more unless it comes through some kind of leak about what happened today and where we are with regard to Iran. And that's really in the president's best interest. Let them wonder. I have a feeling they know exactly what they need to do. Then there was this, and I think this is interesting, Ken. I think this may be the hang-up. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Friday, the U.S. has seized roughly $1 billion in Iranian cryptocurrency as part of the Trump administration's broader economic pressure campaign against Tehran. Speaking with Fox Business host Larry Kudlow at the Reagan National Economic Forum, Bessent said the administration has also worked with European allies to target Iranian-linked luxury properties and financial assets overseas. I believe that we have seized about $1 billion of their crypto. Just outright seized it. Just grabbed their wallet, says Bessent. By the way, I like Bessent. Bessent said some Iranian-linked actors may not yet realize that their assets were taken. We were working with our allies all over Europe to grab villas and houses and properties. This is money that's stolen from the Iranian people. The comments come as the Trump administration weighs whether to approve broader framework agreement with Iran tied to reopening. So I think what happened is a lot of these Iranians who were in the middle of negotiations got the word that their crypto has been seized, and I think that became a problem. So I don't know. We'll see whether they can get it back on track. We really don't know. We're in sort of a waiting period. We don't know what the outcome of those negotiations were, but as yet, we have not heard what Trump's final determination is. And I think Ken makes a very interesting point. A lot of people are saying it was a final decision. It was final determination. And it seems to me that the definitions of determination and decision are different. Determination to me suggests, and this is all of that diplo talk that you have to, words are important in diplomatic negotiations. A determination is, I have determined which direction we're going, but I haven't necessarily decided when that will be. So there we go. I think that's what's going on. I want to talk a little bit about the economy as it relates to what's going on with the midterms, because we got to get the economy in better shape by the midterm elections. I have a lot of respect for Newt Gingrich. I think he's a great, brilliant, actually, political strategist. And some people were asking him, where are we going to be for the midterm elections? I think it's a great question. And this is what Newt Gingrich had to say. And I think he's really right about this. Listen carefully. A lot of wisdom being dropped in this one little clip. Here is the former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich.
The price of gasoline on Labor Day. I'm pretty confident I can tell you about the election.
Let's do that again. I want you to hear the whole thing.
If you tell me the price of gasoline on Labor Day, I'm pretty confident I can tell you about the election. If the president can get gasoline down somewhere in the $3 range, and people begin to feel like it's going to continue to come down, the Republicans will win the largest off-year election in modern times.
Really?
Yes, that's my personal judgment.
Well, I think he's right about that. Look, there's a lot of things that indicate the economy is perhaps stronger than we perceive it to be. You see, there's an old saying in politics that perception is as important as reality. The real facts of a situation may be different, but it's how people perceive things that makes them uneasy. Perception is reality in politics at times, and I think a lot of people are looking at every time they go to the gas pump, what is the universal experience that we all have? Going to fill up our tanks and being irritated by the cost of gasoline. Unless you have a Tesla or an electric vehicle, everybody's having that experience. And because gas prices have that ability to just rip through the economy and cause inflation at a higher rate, our inflation right now is at 3 and change. A lot better than it was when it was at 9.1%. under the Biden administration. So we're not near where they were, but still people are uneasy because, the thing that just ratchets their attention is the fact that they're paying so much for a gallon of gas. Right now, in the state of Tennessee, the national average is $4.02. You heard Newt Gingrich say that if we can get it down to $3 a gallon, he thinks we'll do well. And I think he's right about that. Because if people are perceiving that gas is getting lower and maybe where it was before the Iranian thing, then I think, and the other parts of our economy are poised to just explode, and I think they are. Listen to what else he says.
Partially because with the One Big Beautiful Bill last year, the weight of economic growth is going to be so enormous. We'll probably be at 5 or 6% growth by this fall.
Now, think about that. 5 or 6% GDP growth by the fall, and on the pathway to having that continue to be the situation for a while, because the economy will respond if you get this gasoline thing out of the way. There seems to be little doubt to me.
Which means that jobs will be showing up. People will have wages rising faster than inflation. And we will really be back rolling as the arsenal of democracy. The other thing is that the Democrats really have become a party that is I think, weak and woke and far too liberal. And I think as a result, they are almost like George McGovern in 72. They are open to the potential for a collapse on a scale they can't quite imagine. And only, frankly, the liberal news media misleading them, like the recent Washington Post poll, which had, I think, 27% Trump voters in the poll when he got 50% in the election. Now, that's actually a disadvantage in the long run for the left, because it means they're always operating off of bad information, and they don't realize how much they've got to change and how much trouble they're in.
Well, they may be in a lot more trouble than they think they are, because, again, the polls are suggesting, some of the Washington Post polls, New York Times polls, they're all starting to suggest that it'll be a rout. And, quite frankly, if you look at the history, if past is prologue, you look at the party out of power in a midterm election traditionally does not do well in the midterm elections. But there's one exception to that rule. One exception. If the economy is said to be banging on all 8 cylinders, if everything looks good for the economy, then, the party in power can do well in a midterm election. But if perception is not there, then probably not going to be a great outcome. It's not uncommon to lose 20, 30, 40, even 60 seats in a midterm election, 60 seats in the House of Representatives. Obama lost 60 seats in his midterm election. But the one exception to that, and Newt Gingrich is correct about that, the one exception to that is when the economy is doing well. So here's what he said, just to recap. Watch the price of gas on Labor Day. If we're at $3, he thinks we're going to do well. He thinks that Democrats believe that they are offering up what America wants, and they believe that they're correct with their very liberal agenda. But they don't understand that that's not where America is and never has been. It's about the economy, stupid. And I think Newt is right when he says that we have a lot of things that are poised to really do well because of the big, bad, beautiful bill that will be better once we get the gasoline thing straightened out. And to that point, Breitbart.com. Americans kept spending in April, even as gasoline prices continued to surge, a sign that higher energy costs have not forced a broad retreat in households' outlays. I've brought you stories in recent days when I've been filling in about how Lowe's is doing better, and Home Depot is doing better, and Target is doing better. All of these things are indication that consumers are spending. And so where are they getting that money? I think they're getting it from their tax returns. I think they have more money. I think their wages are going up. Something is happening out there that keeps consumers spending at a time when they claim to be nervous. I think the only thing they're really nervous about is the price of gasoline. I think by and large, that's the big problem. But they're spending money. They don't seem to be backing away from spending money, which suggests that the economy may be a lot stronger than people perceive it to be. Again, you got reality and you have perception. Perception in politics is as important as reality. If people perceive they're not doing well, then they're concerned. But the evidence, the realistic evidence, not just how people feel, but what the evidence and the numbers show, is the economy is still doing pretty good. So there you have that. 20 minutes, I'll call it 21 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Let me ask you a question. Are you tired of feeling like a number at the doctor's office? Sadly, that is often the case, right? Hours spent waiting to be seen. You have to wait days, if not weeks, before you can actually get in. And then you discover that your treatment is determined more by your insurance company than by you and your doctor, which is very frustrating in and of itself. Well, I have modern, affordable medicine that isn't frustrating, and it shouldn't be. At Grace Point Healthcare, it's where you're cared for without the red tape, without insurance guidelines, and you are usually seen the same day or the next day. Your care is provided when you need it, not just when convenient for your doctor. Grace Point Healthcare is modern, affordable medicine when you actually need it. Friends, make the call to 599-6868, 599-6868. I encourage you to contact Grace Point Healthcare. They're located in the heart of Franklin, available for anyone within the sound of my voice. Direct pay format means that you go, you see them, smart care plans available for you. Ask them about that when you make the call that so many others have made. 599-6868, modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way.
That's Ken Weaver. He'll be here with the news at 6:30. 6:30, you get a heavy dose of Ken Weaver, and that's a good thing. It's always a good thing. I want to talk about the story that's floating around here with regard to Jill Biden. The Democrats wish that Jill Biden would go away, but she's written a book, and she's out there talking about the book. And in it, she says that in the night, I remember it so well, when Donald Trump and Joe Biden were debating, and he did so horribly, she actually thought he might be having a stroke. That's what she says. Take a listen. This is how CNN covered it.
A stunning admission from Jill Biden about her husband's debate performance. Take a listen.
Were you horrified as you saw it unfold?
I wasn't horrified, I was frightened because I had never, ever seen Joe like that before or since. Never.
Or since?
Yes. Or
You've
since.
never seen him like
never.
that?
No.
What happened?
I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke. And it scared me to death.
Well, I mean, if you're the wife of someone and you love that person and you see them on a debate stage and you think he may be having a stroke, then what do? You send somebody in there to get him, and because his life is at danger of danger of dying if you don't do something to stop the stroke. See, she didn't feel like it was a stroke, and she had seen this plenty of times before. And what's really crazy is that immediately after the debate, they didn't go to the hospital. They didn't go to have him checked out. They put him in front of a crowd.
That interview comes just weeks before the release of the former First Lady's new memoir, and it's the first time that we've heard her express any concern about that debate that ultimately ended Joe Biden's 2024 campaign. But that stands in stark contrast to what Jill Biden had to say just moments after the debate.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Why?
Well,
your instant reaction to the Jill Biden.
Listen to how they debate
this a little bit in the last segment. When you lie to people right to their face, they have a tendency to not trust you. And, you know, a lot of people knew something was wrong with Joe Biden. I went to a dinner in Detroit, an AACP dinner. He was the guest speaker. His speech was great, but seeing him just make the walk to the stage, I was concerned. I was like, hey, this dude doesn't look right.
We knew that. We all knew it. We all saw it.
But I would say that, especially now, as we're looking at a president who often showcases that he is unwell, that we need to apply those same questions that a lot of people had then.
So Joe Biden is having a stroke, or everybody knows that Joe Biden's not up to the task. We keep propping him up and propping him up and propping him up. And now the lesson that Democrats are trying to foist upon the American people is that, you know, what we need to do is we need to take Donald Trump out, because he's not there. He's just like Joe Biden was. No, he's not even close, and they know it. But that's the argument. You know, well, we can't do anything about Joe Biden, but we can certainly do something about Donald Trump.
People had the right to wonder about Joe Biden's health after seeing that debate, and those questions were fair and they were legitimate. I think the problem is that now those same questions aren't being asked, even though we're seeing things that are just as concerning, if not worse.
Peter, is that fair?
Why the hell are they talking about this again? Why are you coming out with it? It's the same with Queen Jean-Pierre. It's like, do you want to relitigate this?
Yeah, they do, apparently. I mean, Jill Biden said, but other Democrats wish she would just shut up. We don't need to talk about this anymore. But the bottom line is Jill Biden is trying to rewrite history. We saw it. We realized what was going on. We all saw it coming. It was like a slow motion train wreck. You saw this coming in real time before the debate. And the debate just certified everything that we had been seeing for some time. It is 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time for the news with Ken Weaver.
I am insanely excited to tell you that the week has come. That's right. It is the big week for Glock Store's incredible open house celebration extravaganza extraordinaire blowout sale that they have going on this Saturday. All starts at 10 o'clock. Doors open a little earlier than 10 to get ready for the big event. We want you there early because they're giving away $50,000 worth of goodies. We're talking optics and accessories, magazines and whatnot, and Glocks and other guns. They're giving it all away at the Glock Store at the big open house. Plus, they'll have deals galore. I mean, this is a huge event that Second Amendment folks wait for the entire year. I want to see you. I'll be there. Dan Mandis will be there. Chris Hand will be there. And you can be there as well. It's the one and only Glock Store. It's this Saturday from 10 until 2. I hope to see you there at the Glock Store. Online for more information at glockstore.com. That's glockstore.com or shoot270.com.
Let's call it 37 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, in for Matt Murphy, who will return on Monday. He is going to be at the Glock Store tomorrow, and I'll be at the Glock Store tomorrow. Cabana Wife will be at the Glock Store. All God's children will be at the Glock Store. You need to be there as well. Hope to see you there. I want to do cleanup in the last half hour of this program, the Matt Murphy program, for this 29th day of May. We are headed into June before long. When we come back on Monday, we'll be into the month of June, 6 months into the year. How about that? So cleanup. This is interesting. Tennessee Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally took disciplinary action against State Senator Charlene Oliver, Democrat of Nashville, this week for her conduct during the Tennessee General Assembly special legislative session earlier this month, when lawmakers approved the new congressional redistricting map. Oliver was seen standing on her desk in the Senate chamber during the redistricting vote while shouting and displaying a banner criticizing the new congressional map as Jim Crow 2.0, an effort in an attempt to disrupt voting rights for minorities, is what she claimed. In the letter Oliver shared on social media Wednesday, Lieutenant Governor McNally informed the National Democrat that she would be stripped of certain legislative privileges, barred from receiving some travel reimbursements, and reassigned to a different committee following her actions on the Senate floor earlier this month. This, according to the Tennessee Star. This letter is to inform you that your actions on the Senate floor on May 7th violate Senate rules regarding order and decorum in the chamber. In watching the video footage, it is observed that you stood on your desk, unfurled a banner, that you resisted handing it over to the sergeant-at-arms when requested to do so, and sang Well, there's the greatest insult of all, while dancing on your desk. Oliver is only approved for a per diem on days the General Assembly is in session or on days her attendance is required for a standing committee meeting, not approved for reimbursement for travel to any legislative conferences held outside of Tennessee, and reassigned from the Government Operations Committee to the State and Local Government Committee. Now, there you have it. Randy McNally dropping the boom, lowering the boom there. Damage control mode for Vrabel. Boy, the former Titans coach, now the Patriots head coach, was in a press conference. It's hard when you cover the Patriots on a regular basis to ask the difficult questions that Vrabel doesn't want to answer about his apparent scandalous, what do you want to call it, liaison with Diana Rossini. So this is how it went, and the reporter's doing everything he can to ask she's asking a question without asking a question that is, that she really wants to ask. She says, how was your time off? How was your time with family?
When we spoke to you last, you were talking about the balance of family and football. Just how would you describe how that process has been going?
Oh, really good. I think that's, again, I appreciate my family is great. I love Jen. I love the boys. I love, my personal friends. And then, this spring is focused on really the coaching staff, the players.
You see what he did there? That's called a pivot. That's the classic pivot. You're in a press conference. You get asked a question. You try to get out of it as quickly as you possibly can and move on to the things you want to talk about. In this case, it was how the Patriots are expected to do at training camp this year. Didn't give it but about 2 seconds before he moved on. If you've ever been on a Southwest Airlines flight or any really airline of late recently, and you hear the flight attendants talking about a POS, I happened to ask a flight attendant one time what that meant. I was on Southwest Airlines, and they were talking. I overheard the two flight attendants talking about, deal with that POS, and I'll work on this, and I'll work on this. And I later asked, in conversation, I said, what does that mean when you say, I want you to deal with the POS? And I was told that stands for, in their little lingo and their little, the language that they use as flight attendants, that stands for passenger of size. Southwest Airlines says it has updated its policy for plus-size passengers, according to ABC News. They are no longer required to purchase an extra seat in advance, and that airport agents can offer an additional seat at no extra cost if the space is available. The change took effect late last week. On flights where adjacent seats are available, our agents at airports are empowered to provide an additional seat at no extra cost to customers who require one. If another seat is not available, we will work to accommodate the customer on a later flight. Earlier this year, Southwest introduced a policy requiring passengers who needed additional space to purchase a second seat before traveling. Customers would later request a refund if extra seats were available on the flight. In other words, if you are a person of size, they would say, you need to buy two tickets. And if you got on the plane and there were empty seats on the plane, then they would refund your money. But that's still, now they're saying that we can just give you one if we have one. But if you don't have one, guess what? We don't have one, and you haven't purchased an additional seat, you're not getting on the plane. I like this because, look, I don't think I've been in situations where I like to sit in the exit row in Southwest Airlines. I do. I love the exit row. I like to sit on the aisle. I want to be able to get out early. I like the extra leg room. I don't mind, handling the door if we get into an emergency and you go through all that. But I was sitting in the exit row one time, and I was on the aisle, and there was somebody at the window, and the center seat was open. And that's a bad situation because you never know what you're going to get in that center seat. And I was sitting there, oh man, I think I might luck out. I think the center seat may stay open. Very excited. And then at the very last second, you know that she tried to get on the plane at the very last second because she wanted to get on the plane without any trouble, without having to buy a second ticket. And she ended up, and guess where she was sitting next to me? To the point where I could not sit in that chair without one of my butt cheeks hanging out in the aisle. And then I got yelled at by the flight attendant because my butt cheek was hanging out on the aisle. Listen, you have to do something about it. I'm sorry that you can't fit in one seat, but that's not my problem. I support this. I think this is an amazing thing, and I'm glad to see them have a policy where they will protect people, from having to be in a situation like I was in that time. I couldn't believe. I looked at that guy. He came by and yelled at me because sir, you can't be hanging out here. See, you can actually take that if you're on the aisle. You can take that handle if you know where the button is and pull it up. And I had to do that. I had no choice. There simply wasn't any room in my seat. And the guy yelled at me, and I looked. He took a couple of steps forward, looked back, and I went, "Dude, what do you want me to do?" And then he realized what the situation was, and he moved on. I had to do that entire flight. It was about a 3-hour flight with my butt cheek hanging out and not able to sit in my own chair. That's not right, and it's not safe. They had a huge explosion down at the Cape Canaveral. Blue Origin, that's the New Glenn rocket being built by Jeff Bezos of Amazon, blew up on the launch pad. Now, this was, if you've seen the video, you know what I'm talking about. This was about one of the biggest explosions I've ever seen. And some people are saying that it may be one of the largest non-nuclear explosions on record. I mean, it was a hell of a boom. Heard for maybe 100 miles. And it really destroyed the launch pad down there. And what this means is, number one, the Blue Origin New Glenn rocket, which is so important to their plans to get us back to the moon, is going to be on hold and is going to be delayed for a while. I don't think they have yet figured out exactly what a delay this is going to cost, because NASA has put its eggs into the Blue Origin basket for the trip to the moon and the lunar lander. SpaceX, they used to blow up their rockets, but they haven't been blowing up in a while. This was a hell of a setback for Blue Origin and Jeff Bezos' desire to get into the space game, because you could rebuild the rocket, but they only had one launch pad for this rocket down on the Cape, and they don't have a backup. It's $1 billion launch pad, and they don't have one. So how long is it going to take them to rebuild it? The damage is considerable, and we've seen damage today. So this means that our NASA moon program may be delayed even more than it already is. The Titanic blast, according to CBS News, could be seen across a wide swath of Florida, shaking nearby homes and rattling windows as roiling clouds of flame billowed into the sky, framed by arcing streaks of debris flying in all directions. Early Friday, Space Launch Delta 45 warned the public that debris from the anomaly could wash ashore along publicly accessible areas over the coming days and weeks, and that you should not touch it. This was a hot fire test being carried out in preparation for the New Glenn's launch in early June on a flight to deploy 48 Amazon-owned internet satellites. The satellites were not on board at the time of this test and were not damaged in the mishap. While the cause of the explosion was not immediately known, it appeared to originate at or near the base of the rocket's first stage, as its 7 methane-burning BE-4 engines were igniting for the planned test. These engines combined a 4.5 million pounds of thrust at full power, but they went up all at once. Unbelievable. Look, the whole thing about this using the Blue Origin to go back to the moon, quite frankly, they were already behind schedule. This is going to put them further behind schedule. We're supposed to be landing on the moon in 27, and I can tell you right now, that is not going to happen. It simply is not going to happen. The fact that we have lost this rocket and set this program back. A few weeks ago, I happened to see something from Elon Musk, who was very apologetic and felt really bad. He said, look, I really hate this. Rocket science is hard, and they just found out about it. But he said a few weeks ago, I happened to catch it somewhere, he put on X, that he expects that the return to the moon will fall in the lap of SpaceX before it's all over. And that may be exactly what has happened here. Blue Origin down for the count. Going to be a while getting back up to where they were. And SpaceX is getting it done right now in a big way. Coming up in just a moment, have you heard about this movie that Spielberg is putting out called Disclosure Day? What is that all about? And what's in this movie? You may be surprised to hear some of the things people are saying about it. It's all coming up in just a few moments right now, 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock.
Hi, friends. Matt Murphy for Cover Nash. Shane Ring simply wants to have a conversation with you, and I think it can be a very beneficial conversation from a financial perspective because Shane has over 75 different plans and programs regarding health insurance at his fingertips. He works for none of these people. He works for you. When you call Shane Ring and Cover Nash, you are his customer, and he wants to do best by you. He wants to find you the right plan that's for you and your family. He wants to find the best deal possible. You should not overpay. And sadly, it's as if health insurance companies try to make these things as confusing as possible because they don't want you to understand the fine print. They don't want you to understand the red tape. Shane understands all of those things. He becomes your personal healthcare concierge. So don't believe people when they tell you, well, it's not open enrollment season, so you can't do anything. Not true. You can do things. You can make better plans and programs. You can find them. You do not have to play by Washington's rules. If you're self-employed, uninsured, or simply tired of paying too much, call 615-465-0023, 465-0023, or online at covernash.com, covernash.com.
54 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Hello, everybody. Brian Wilson in the chair for Matt Murphy. He'll be back on Monday. We have Ken Weaver in the newsroom, and well, I think he just took off. He's done for the day. He's done. But RJ's still there. How you doing, RJ? Everything good?
Doing great. Having a blast. Bringing a little funk music to get you back in for this last segment.
Well, good. I like that. I am morbidly, I don't know, just overwhelmingly fascinated by all of this UAP, UFO stuff that's come out recently. As you know, there have been 2 drops from the Trump administration, videos of things that we can't quite explain. Let me just give you my sense of it, because I've looked at this stuff very closely. I think some of what you're seeing in these latest document dumps are garbage. I mean, some of them are balloons, some of them are birds, but they're releasing some of this stuff, but in there are some very interesting videos that are hard to explain. We are in an era of disclosure about UAPs, and we're going to get information we are getting information that goes back to the 30s and the 40s. 1947, particularly, that was Roswell, everything forward. And we're learning, these documents are being declassified and made public, and we're learning a lot of things that we were always told, well, it's just a weather balloon, or it's this, that. Turns out that for a long, long time, we have known about these UAPs, these UFOs, and have been concerned about them and didn't know quite to do it. And then we had that documentary that came out. And if you haven't seen it, I just keep telling people, you got to watch this documentary called Age of Disclosure. It really is. It's not a bunch of people in swamps and hillbillies with missing teeth talking about they once saw a flying saucer. This is very different. It has videos in it. It has some, I want to say like 50-some officials who have worked on the program who say, yes, we have UFOs. Yes, we have had contact with aliens. They go on and they say a lot of things that are just eye-opening. And against that backdrop, with videos being dropped and this Age of Disclosure documentary, which has really changed a lot of people's opinions about the UFO topic, Steven Spielberg is about to release a movie. And he calls it Disclosure Day. And it's really, the question is, is this fiction or is this based on reality? Now, Steven Spielberg has been doing a lot of advanced publicity on it and has been talking about that there's a lot of truth, not fiction, in this movie. He has refused to let anybody see the third act, except for those who got an early look at the film. But most people haven't been able to, then they're not able to talk about the third act. And some people are saying that there may be video in the movie that is actual real UFO video that we've not seen before. We'll certainly find out if that's true. This movie is going to be released on June 12th. So far, the videos that have been dropped in, some of them are garbage, some of them are interesting, but it ain't that, holy crap stuff that we've been told. You've got members of Congress, Tim Burchett, Eric Burleson, Anna Paulina Luna, all saying that, they have seen videos that are mind-blowing, but we haven't seen them yet. And all of these videos that have been released, we haven't yet seen them. I'm wondering, with this movie set to be released on June 12th, just a few days from now, will they time the best stuff with the movie? I don't know, but it certainly is going to be interesting. And I got to tell you, we still you're about to be wowed by some of the stuff that apparently is out there that has yet to drop, but will drop, we are told. Very quickly, if you've got thin skin, I know that as I get older, my skin is thin. And not that I have a thin skin from the standpoint of I can't take criticism. I can take criticism. But thin skin is a thing for a lot of people. You know how to solve that problem? According to a new study published by the journal ACS Nutrition Science, eat a lot of grapes. Grapes can change how the genes behave, giving the skin an added defense system against sun damage. Who would have thought that the key to healthy skin, which, by the way, is the largest organ of the body, would be to eat a bunch of grapes. Well, there you have it. You learned it all right here. Thank you for being with us here today. Appreciate you joining us. As I mentioned, Matt Murphy will be there. I'll be down at the Glock store tomorrow. Hope you'll drop by and say hello. Matt Murphy and the guys will all be there. We'll have a gay old time, and we hope that you will come by and buy a cookie from Cabana Wife at her cookie table. I'll be there. We'll be selling cookies, and that's my new gig. I'm her IT department and her carnival barker. It's 59 minutes past the hour. Time for the news.